Good morning, all. Today we are going to conduct our first seminar on English medium. So I would like to welcome all the teachers and my dear students, as well as I would like to welcome our resource person, Mrs. Lakshmi Nettkumara, the teacher of Ave Maria Convent, Negombo, for today's seminar. This Zoom, this online seminar also, you can watch online live on YouTube as well. So you can tell your friends as well. So we are going to start our seminar. So I would like to invite Mrs. Lakshmi Nettkumara. Excuse me, Lakshmi. You are please
Right. Okay. Sorry. Good morning, madam and teachers and my dear students. So, as informed, I think all of you know that today we are planning to discuss about the first term and second term subject contents in grade 10. So, this paper, which is today I'm going to discuss, is solely depend on the first term and second term work. And I hope once you finish this, you will refresh your knowledge about the grade 10 work. And so I think you can understand it is really a hard work to cover up this whole thing within 3 hours. So without any delay, let's proceed to our work. I try my level best to cover the paper as much as possible. If you feel that I'm too fast, please let me know by putting a message to the chat box, or else if you want any further clarification also, you can stop me as putting a message to the chat box. Okay, so we'll proceed without any delay. Now I would like to share the screen with you. So hope all of you have the paper with you. Can you hear me clearly? Children, yes, one of you please let me know.
Yes, teacher. Yes, teacher.
Okay. Right. Okay. Now I will discuss the question by question in your first paper. So in the first paper, the first question is Golgi body is a or an in. So there you must know Golgi body is a cell, is an organelle in all animal and plant cells. So it is not a cell, it is not an organ, and it is not a tissue. It is a small tiny organelle which is located in all animal and plant cells. If you want to refresh your mind about, if you want to refresh your knowledge about the cells, so you can look at this clearly. So I will show another one. So here it is very clear that what are the common organelles common to plant cells and animal cells, and what are not common, what are unique for the plant cells and animal cells. So, so then we'll move to the next question. Which of the following pairs is an isotope? For that, you have to remember the definition of isotope. What is an isotope? It is an atom with different mass numbers in the same element, but having the unique or the constant atomic numbers. Mass number can be different, but atomic number must be unique, similar. So therefore, we can take the first answer as the first one as the answer. C612 and C616. Diamond and graphite are two allotropes or two ways of carbon element. Carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, CH4H4 and CH3H6 are not actually elements. So then the answer should be the first one. The question 3, find the scalar quantity from the given quantities. You know, you have learned already two physical quantities as scalar and vector. So this physical quantity, that means the one of the physical quantity is scalar quantity, which can be described only by its magnitude, are named as scalar quantities. So the physical quantity which can be described by its magnitude and direction, specifically the direction must be there. So then such quantities are called vector quantities. So with that you can find the answer. Displacement, force and velocity are having magnitude as well as the direction. So the answer should be the third one, time, because there is no any direction. So when you come to the fourth question, the number of atoms present in ammonium dichromate. Here, you should not think much about the Avogadro constant or the mole or anything. Just you have to count the number of atoms present in this one molecule. So there you can see NH4 twice. That means you have to multiply each and every atom in by 2. So nitrogen atoms, 2, hydrogen atoms, 2 into 4, 8, chromate, 2, again oxygen, 7. Just you have to get the summation of them. So it is obvious that answer is 19, right? So when you come to the fifth question, so it seems, I think for the moment you have go through all these questions. So the figure shows a potato plant that is asexually reproduced by stem tubers. Below are 4 observations regarding the potato plant. Here, the given observations are 4 observations are regarding the potato plant. Out of them, you have to find which of the above observations indicate the characteristics of asexual reproduction. Though you are given some observations related to potato plant, you have to find the characteristics related to asexual reproduction. So then the statement A, one mother plant contributes to this. Yes. Stem tubers are attached to the mother plant. Yes, stem tubers are attached, but you have to think whether it is related to the asexual reproduction. No. The stem tubers are inherently similar to that of the parent plant. Yes, that is a major feature of asexual reproduction. That's why we get daughter plants, which is similar to that of the mother plant. So, stem tubers store food. Yes, stem tubers are actually main function of the stem tubers are to store food. But that is not a feature for the asexual reproduction. So you have to get the answer as A and C. That means the first one should be your answer. Then we'll move to the sixth question. If a woman's menstruation starts on March 23rd, in which week can the ovulation take place? In this case, you have to remember ovulation takes place 14 days prior to the menstruation. So that first you have to mark 23 because it said that a woman's menstruation starts on March 23rd. That means the onset of menstruation falls on 23rd. So then you have to count back 14 days and then find the date of ovulation. So then if you count back 14 days, it will fall on this week. So the answer in the question, it asks about to find any problem. Right. So then when you count back 14 days from the 23rd, so the date will fall on somewhere here, because we cannot exactly say the 14th day it happens, but it can be happen within this week, maybe 9th, maybe 10th or 11th. So the answer must be the second one. So to refresh your knowledge about the reproductive system, so then if you watch this slide carefully, so you can find this menstruation start here. So then 14 days, the ovulation takes place. So actually this lesson, this section or this lesson is really a very important. From this section, you can get many more questions. So please, I think you have to have a thorough knowledge about this reproductive system. So there you have to compare these things together. So then you can understand the process as a story. Right. If you go to the seventh question, given below are electronic configurations of four elements. They are given as W2X, X28, like this. Now, let's recall your memory about electronic configurations. Once you write electronic configuration, you can get a lot of information by looking at the electronic configuration. So when you write, so the last number gives you the electrons which are present in the last energy shell. So then it gives you an idea about the group which the element belongs. The number of shells implies you that the period which that element is located in the periodic table. And also by looking at the electronic configuration, you can get an idea about the valency also. So you have to refresh all these things, and let's move to find the answer here. Which atoms involving to form covalent compounds? Now, see what are covalent? So there are two types of bonding. One is covalent bonds, the other one is ionic bonds. So when elements bonded with covalent bonds and form covalent compounds. Let's see what are covalent bonds. Right? Covalent bonds are the elements which can share electrons between atoms. Sharing is the main thing. Not forming ions, that means not releasing electrons or gaining electrons. They just share the electrons and form covalent bonds. So sharing of electrons between atoms of the same kind give rise to homoatomic molecules, or else sharing electrons between atoms of different elements give rise to heteroatomic molecules, or both form covalent compounds. Now let's see. W is 2x. So you know that this W belongs to the sixth group and located in the second period. So you know the elements which are present in the second period. Lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and fluorine, neon. Right? So then this one it is obvious now, this W is actually oxygen, which is in the sixth group. And 2,8 is the neon, that is the noble gas. In this case, you must remember noble gases are very stable and they do not form any kind of bonding because they can exist as it is. So X when X actually does not involve in any kind of forming compound. So Y is 281, that in the third period. So Y must be here, that is sodium. Its atomic number is 11. So Z is 287, having 17 atomic number. It is chlorine, Z here. So now we have to find out what are the atoms which involve in to form covalent compounds. So if we take two W atoms, that means oxygen atoms, the last energy shell containing 6 electrons. So it needs 2 more electrons to be stable. So what actually oxygen does is sharing its 2 oxygen atoms combine by sharing their electrons, 2 electrons from each, and form a double bond and form an oxygen molecule. Okay, so when you come to the second answer, 2x atom. So now it's clear X does not involve to form any covalent compound. W atom with X atom. So it is also not possible because X won't engage in uh, forming compounds. Y atom with Z atom. Y belongs to the first group. Z belongs to the seventh group, and they do not share. They gain and receiving. That means they form ionic bonds. So the answer must be the first one. So the eighth question. Find the most appropriate statement which gives an idea about the size of an atom, right? So idea about the size of an atom. So actually this is clearly given in your textbook. If the atom is in the solar system, the nucleus is the sun. This one actually we call about the solar system or the planetary model to get an idea about the structure of the atom. This is not about the size of the atom. If the atom is a football field, the nucleus is a small peanut in the center. Yes, that is the answer. That gives you a kind of idea how big it is or how small the nucleus is when you compare with the size of the atom. So if you think about the third answer, the mass of an electron is this and the mass of the proton is this kilogram. This actually gives you an idea about the size of the atom. Size කියන්නේ ළමයි මෙහෙම අපි ගත්තොත් මේක දැන් ෆුට්බෝල් එකක් වුත් ඒකේ size එක අපිට ඒකේ අදහසක් එනවනේ අන්න ඒ වගේ. An atom consists of a cloud electrons surrounding a nucleus with protons and neutrons. No, electrons surrounding a cloud of electrons, that is actually one way it is correct, but it does not give you an idea about the full picture. So the answer must be the second one. Ninth question. In addition to working to build the structure of an organism, the nutrients they obtain contribute to which of the following? That means once the organisms get their nutrients, what are the processes that these nutrients use to, right? So if you take the reproduction, yes, it needs a lot of nutrients because needs energy. So whatever the function which needs energy needs a nutrient. So reproduction is a process which needs energy for the cell division, for the cell growth, and lot of things. And homeostasis is the balancing to regulate the temperature, to regulate the water balance in the body itself also needed energy. So nutrients involved there and all the metabolic activities and to form energy. So the answer must be the fourth one. A, B, C, and D all needed the nutrients. So if you go to the 10th question, what is a typical cell? typical cell is a model which contain all the organelles within it. So that is, in a typical cell, you can see the cell wall, you can see the chloroplast, and all type of organelles in a one particular model. So typical cell is a model cell made up of all the organelles and structures. They are not actually living or live things. It is a model. So when you come to the 11th question, a passenger plane starts from the rest of a runway, travels 42 seconds at a uniform acceleration, and takes off at a speed of 84 meters per second. What is the acceleration of the aircraft on the runway? Now, all of you are aware about this kind of situation. Normally, when a plane rest at a runway and travels at a 42 seconds at a uniform acceleration, in the airport, long runway is there to come to its, because the plane must get that move like this way and come to its particular speed to take off, to get the takeoff. So what is the acceleration of the aircraft on the runway? So the initial velocity is 0 because it said that it starts its journey at rest. So at the point it starts its takeoff, the velocity is the 84 meters per second. That is the final velocity. And it moves up to 42 seconds. The time taken to that journey is 42 seconds. So acceleration is the rate of change of velocity. That means final velocity minus initial velocity divided by time. Final velocity is 84. Initial velocity is 0. Time taken 42. So that means 2 meters per square second. So answer must be the second one. Children, am I too fast? Can you manage my speed? Is it too fast?
No, teacher.
Okay. Because I have to think, I want to cover up the whole thing within this given time period. That's why I bit fast. Okay. Right. The 12th question. The deficiency of which following mineral cause anemia? So if you go through the things given in your textbook, I have pasted that table given in your textbook. Anemic conditions actually due to lack of hemoglobin. So to synthesize hemoglobin need iron. So iron is the deficient mineral which is responsible for anemic condition. So if you take iodine, so here iodine is needed to synthesize thyroxine. It affects the development of intelligent lethargic attitudes, limits body height, and sometimes, not actually sometimes, if the situation is severe, you may get goiters. So that is iodine. And magnesium, mainly it is a component in chlorophyll, and magnesium also a very important mineral for human being also. So calcium, it needs for the development of the health of the bone and muscles. So sorry, bone and, I can't remember the other word, bone and teeth, right? So for this one, answer should be iron or ferrous. So when moves to the 13th question, Which part of the female reproductive system does implantation occurs? Implantation. So if you look at the process of this, so you know the ovary releases an ovum, and when it moves through the fallopian tube, it gets fused with the sperm nucleus, that is called fertilization. So fertilization takes place within the fallopian tube and form a zygote, and this zygote moves to find a place to implant, to fix. That is actually happening in the uterus. So the answer must be the uterus. So the vagina, function of the vagina is to letting a path to move sperms to the uterus, and fallopian tube, the function is for the fertilization, and ovary is releasing ova. So when moves to the 14th question, find the mass of C2H5OH equal to the number of moles in 36 grams of water, right? So first, I know many of you are a bit fear about the word moles. When you see moles, you think that it is really a very difficult one. But if you go through this question carefully, it's not that difficult as you think. Find the mass of ethanol equal to the number of moles in 36 grams of water. So first thing you have to do it, you have to find the number of moles in this 36 grams of water. For that you can use the equation number of moles equal to mass divided by relative molecular mass of the compound. Now here we are considering water. So mass of water is given as 36 grams, and then for that then you have to find out the relative molecular mass of water. Relative molecular mass of water is H2O. You have to find it 1 plus 16, that is 18. Relative molar mass here, molar mass is grams per mole, right? So then that is 18 grams per mole. So then it is 2 moles, right? It is 2 moles. Now you found out that in here 36 grams of water contain 2 moles. So you are asked to find the mass of 2 moles of ethanol, right? So then it's easy. The same manner, now you know N is 2. The mass you want to find out, you have to find the molar mass of ethanol. Molar mass of ethanol. For that, first you have to get the relative molecular mass of ethanol and taking it in grams. So that is the molar mass. So relative molecular mass of ethanol is, so then you have to add the C2H5OH, relative atomic masses of all these. Carbon is given as 12. So 2 carbon atoms, 24. Hydrogen, 3. 3 into 1, 3. Oxygen, 1 into 16. So when you add all together, 13, 43. H5OH, 6 ne mavaradwa. H5OH, that means 6. Here 6. එතකොට කීයද? 46 grams. 46 grams per mole is the molar mass of ethanol. 46 grams per mole. So then you have to substitute them into this equation. So you want to find mass. So number of moles multiplied by molar mass of the substance. So 2 into 46, that is 92 grams. You have to take 92 grams to get 2 moles. So the answer is the second one. Okay, now we'll move to the 15th question. An athlete who slides down a mountain on ice first accelerate with 4 meters per square second on hard ice and then accelerates with 2 meters per square second on soft ice. If you, I don't know, we know that we don't have that kind of experience, but if you think about the countries having snow, there the sliding can happen easily in hard ice. So, but in the soft ice means that is not that easy to slide on soft ice because it tries to sink there. So it is actually a deceleration here. So here you must know, you have to find out this, the graphs are given in velocity time graphs. So here you can think about the motion starts from 0, that means rest, and sliding with acceleration. So in a velocity time graph, acceleration, positive acceleration given you in this manner. So, and when it decelerate with 2 meters per square second, that means it comes down with that the gradient must give the 2 meters per square second. If you take the first one, actually here, it gives the uniform velocity. If uniform velocity is there, the 0 acceleration. So we can't take the first one. The answer should be the second one. Here, if you look at the graph clearly, the gradient of the second part is higher than the first one. So it can't be. And it also to this, so then you can't take this one. And here, the second one also can't take. So because it, you have to think about that. Normally when it comes to the down of the cliff, it must come to the resting period. So the answer must be the second one. The 16th question, find a similarity between flowering plant and a non-flowering plant, flowering and non-flowering. So if you look at the both the plants together, so there are some similarities and differences as well. You know, these are plants, even though flowering or non-flowering, they can make its own food. That means they can do photosynthesis. That means they have chlorophyll. And differences, flowering plants have flowers and produce seeds. Non-flowering plants, they do not have flowers and reproduce by spores, and open-seeded plants also, they are without making flowers, they can bear seeds, open-seeded, gymnosperms, that means cycads-like plants. So the main similarity is they can make its own food. So the answer is they are autotrophs, or autotrophic plants, or autotrophs are the plants they can produce their own food. So other three are not correct. They produce seeds because there are some species in non-flowering plants that do not produce seeds, they produce spores. So because of that, we cannot take this one and this one. Both are woody plants. Woody plants, no. Non-flowering plants, Selaginella, Marcantia-like plants, they are not woody plants. So you cannot take as woody plants. They possess seed leaves. Seed leaves are actually very unique characteristics of flowering plants. Seed leaves, because of the seed leaves, you can divide these flowering plants as monocot and dicot seed leaves. So then you cannot take the fourth one also. Only the answer is the autotrophic plants. 16th. The 17th. Given below is the balanced equation relating to the decomposition of hydrogen peroxide. Here, this symbol implies the heating. When hydrogen peroxide is heated, you can get 2 water moles and 1 oxygen. One important thing, children, you have to remember, once you balance any equation, the coefficients given the number of moles involved in the equation. That is a very important point. Remember that when you balanced an equation, the coefficient is the number you put here, put in front of the substance, not the this ඒවට කියන්නේ යටින් දාන ඉලක්කම් නෙමෙයි ඉස්සරහින් දාන එකට කියනවා අපි coefficient එක කියලා, right? So once you put the coefficient correctly, that implies you the number of moles involved in the reaction. So here you can say 2 hydrogen peroxide moles, once we heated, will produce 2 moles of water and 1 mole of oxygen. So that by having that relationship, it's easy you to find the number of moles needed to get 5 moles of oxygen gas. So to get 1 mole of oxygen, you need to decompose 2 moles of hydrogen peroxide, right? So if you want to get 5 moles of oxygen, now it is obvious you need to get 10 moles of H2O2, right? I would like to emphasize that thing again. Once you balanced any chemical equation correctly, the coefficient gives you the number of moles involved in the reaction. Based on that phenomenon, we can find the answer here. A man weighing 50 kilograms is sitting on a chair. What is the reaction of the chair to the man? That means if you sit on a chair, your weight acted downward and the reaction from the chair acted upward. If your weight is more than that, you know that you cannot sit on a chair because the chair will broken and you will fall. So it is saying that a man weighing 50 kilograms is sitting on a chair. So you have to find the weight of the man. Here it is giving the mass. W is equal to mg. So W is 50 kg. So that is 500 Newton. The W of the man is 500 Newton. So it is sitting on a chair without falling. So that means R is also equal to this one, this W. So the answer must be 500 Newton, not 500 kg. So answer is the fourth one. If you move to the 19th question, consider the following substances: sodium chloride crystals, molten sodium chloride, that means without putting water, by heating you can get fused or molten sodium chloride. And aqueous sodium chloride means dissolving sodium solids in water. Which of the above conduct electricity? I hope all of you know that molten sodium chloride and aqueous sodium chloride are the substances which can conduct electricity. Solid sodium chloride does not conduct electricity. So answer must be B and C only. Here, this experiment also giving in the textbook. They taken these three things and try to light the bulb. Right here, this experiment shows that even common salt in the fused state conducts electricity. That means in the aqueous solution. This confirms that electricity flows through ionic compounds in aqueous solution and fused state. However, electricity does not flow through ionic compounds in solid state. One of you asked about the third one. Can we get third one? I don't know actually which question she means. May I know which question you are thinking? Third one. Third one කිව්වේ මේකද? මම ඒක දැක්කේ නෑ පුතේ. කවුරු හරි third one කියලා අදහස් කරේ කොයි question එකද දන්නේ නෑ. Okay, we'll see later. If you want any further clarification, we'll discuss later. Hari? Otherwise, it will take time. No? 20th question. An aircraft travels at a constant altitude. Altitude means the height, increasing its velocity by subjecting to the following forces. Aircraft travels at a constant altitude, increasing its velocity. ඒ කියන්නේ ක්‍රමක්‍රමයෙන් එයාගේ velocity එක වැඩි කරගන්නවා. velocity එක වැඩි කරගන්න නම් එයා accelerate කරන්න ඕනේ. accelerate කරනවා කියන්නේ එයා force එකක් apply කරන්න ඕනේ. ඒක මතක තියාගන්න. හැබැයි එයා යන්නේ එකම altitude එකේදී. එහෙනම් the L is the upward force exerted by the wing and W is the weight. If it moves in the same altitude, so you have to remember that L is equal to W. But it says that its velocity is increasing. That means the forward force is greater than the backward force, that is the air resistance. So forward force is T. T is greater than R. So answer must be the third one. Hope you can understand why we should take L is equal to W, because it says that it travels at a constant altitude. But it says that increasing its velocity, that means the forward force is greater than the frictional force or the air force, air resistance. So T is greater than R. What is the number of electrons involved in the formation of covalent bond in methane? If you look at this figure, methane molecule formed by formed one carbon atom sharing its 4 electrons with 4 hydrogen atoms. So here you can see there are 8 electrons involved in this situation. So the number of electrons involved in the formation of covalent bond in methane is 8. Several species of animals and the number of animals belonging to each species identified by a group of students in a field study are as follows. So asking you the question, what is the number of animals identified by the students which belong to phylum Arthropoda? So you must know what are the different species belongs to Arthropoda. Animal species, slug. Slugs are hambella කියන්නේ සිංහලෙන්. ඒ කියන්නේ it's a kind of molluscan. Locusts are insects. Ticks also belongs to arthropod. Earthworms belongs to annelids. Scorpion, arthropod. So you have to add 5 3, and 3. So the answer must be the fourth one. 23rd. What is the property that does not change that does not change due to the application of force to a solid object? Length. It can be changed. නේද ඔයගලන්ට clay ගුලියක් දීලා ඒක roll කරන්න කිව්වොත් you can change its length. Shape. You can make different shapes. Moving speed also you can change, but you cannot change the mass. Answer is the second one. 24th. A piece of wood with a mass of 2 kg moves along a bench, right? Moves along a bench with a horizontal surface under a frictional force of 4 Newton. If the block moves under the unbalanced force of 10 Newton, that this is a very important thing. Unbalanced force moves under the unbalanced force 10 Newton. ඒ කියන්නේ forward 10 Newton force is acted on. So how does it move? So you know, here, you can find it's if you know this equation, F is equal to ma. You know the unbalanced force, you know the mass, you can find the acceleration. F is 10 Newton and mass is given as 2 kg, and you can find the acceleration 10 by 2, it's 5 divided by 2, 5 meters per square second. හරිද? මෙතන පුතේ point එක තමයි if the block moves under unbalanced force කියලා දීලා තියෙනවා. දැන් ඔයාලා පටල ගන්නේ මොකද්ද? You consider this 4 Newton also. Then what you do is you subtract 4 from 10 and get 6 as the force. If you take like that way, it is wrong. Then your answer comes as third one, but the correct answer is 5 because it is clearly says block moves under an unbalanced force of 10 Newton. So I think if you get the answer as 3, so I hope you can get why it is not 3. Which polysaccharide contained in animals which stored in liver and muscles? So it is actually, we have no need to discuss anymore. The glycogen is the answer because cellulose is present in cell walls of plant. Lactose is a disaccharide and it is a sugar. Sorry, it is a simple sugar which is in milk, but it is not a polysaccharide. Starch is polysaccharide but not stored in liver and muscles. So the answer must be glycogen. Amali's skin is dry and blisters have appeared on her knee and elbow. Further, beetle spots are in her eye. From which of the following deficiencies of vitamin is Amali suffering? Here, this is the very easy thing that you have to remember. Beetle spots are formed in your eye due to the deficiency of vitamin A. Here, these pictures are taken from your textbook. Okay, the answer must be the first one, vitamin A, 26. The chemical formula of the carbonate of an element M is M2CO3. What is the chemical formula of the chloride of M? Here, first of all, you must know to write a formula, you must know the valence of each of the substances. So here, you must find first you have to find the valence of M. How to find the valence of M? With the help of this. It is given M2CO3. This is given to find out the valence of the M element. So you know this 2 comes from carbonate and carbonate having only 1. So that means M's valence is 1, carbonate valence is 2. Now it gives you an idea the valency of M is 1. Harry. So then, now we want to find out the formula of M chloride. So then you write MnCl. Chloride, the valency of chlorine is 1 and you found out the valency of M as 1. So by cis crossing M1Cl1, but we write it as MCl. So the answer is first one. Let's move to 28th question. A student throws a rubber ball from a high place. Just imagine you are in a 5th story of a building and throwing a ball. How do the velocity and acceleration of the ball change during the first few seconds? So what will happen if you throw a ball from a 5-story building? As soon as you release it, the gravitational acceleration work on it and comes it down, increases its velocity, but gravitational acceleration won't change. So the velocity increases, the acceleration does not change. So the answer is the third one. Because remember that the object is freely moving downward only after the gravitational acceleration on it. Which of the following two statements regarding covalent bonds are true? Again, we come to another question related to covalent bonds. It can occur between two metal atoms. You know what are the metals in the periodic table? Mainly first and second group elements. Lithium, sodium, beryllium, magnesium. So it can occur between two metal atoms. These metals do not share their electrons. So it can occur between two metal atoms? No. It can occur between two non-metal atoms. Yes, if you take oxygen, you know, two oxygen atoms sharing its electrons and form oxygen molecule, it is a covalent compound, covalent molecule, covalent bonds are there. It occurs by exchanging electrons among atoms. Yes, this also can be happen. It formed by the sharing of electrons. Exchanging electrons among them, it's wrong. Exchanging means receiving and gaining. That happens in ionic bonds. It is formed by the sharing of electrons between atoms. Yes. So the answer must be B and D. That gives in the fourth question. The mass of diamond is given by carat. Carat is the unit used to measure this. You know that 24 carat gold, 12 carat gold කියලා තියෙනවානේ. It's a kind of unit that we measure. So 1 carat is 200 milligrams. Pure diamonds are made entirely of carbon atoms. How many carbon atoms per 1 carat of diamond? So no need to bother about what is this carat and all. Only thing you have to find out the number of atoms in how many carbon atoms in this much of milligram. So once you get this mass, you must remember this equation. To find the number of atoms, you must know the number of moles present in this 200 milligrams. So you can put mass into relative molar mass of a carbon. So mass is 200 milligrams. You have to convert it into grams. So 200 milligrams divided by 1000, you can get 0.2 grams. So 0.2 grams, this is equal to 0.2 grams. And molar mass of carbon is 12 grams per mole. So then it must be 2 divided by 120. That means 1 divided by 60. So now this much of moles are present in this 20 milligrams. So then you know 1 mole contains Avogadro constant number or Avogadro number of atoms. 6.022 10 to the power 23 number of atoms present here in a 1 mole. So 1 over 60, that means here how much atoms present in this much of mole. So then you have to, what you have to do, you have to multiply by this 1 over 60. It is roughly, you can take 1 into 10 to the power 22. This is actually a typing mistake. This must be 1 into 22 number of atoms. Okay, 31. Which of the following is not a mole? Not a mole. 18 grams of water. You know 18 grams of water is relative molecular mass of water is 18. When we take the relative molecular mass in grams, it is equal to 1 mole. So 18 grams of water is a mole. Ek mole. It is not a mole කියන හින්දා එක වැරදි. 6.022 10 to the power 23 number of jack seeds, also a mole of jack seeds. Whatever the substance, if you take this much of in number, that is a mole of that is actually a 1 mole. Whether it is jack seed, whether it is sugar, whether it is anything. So this is also gives a mole. So the answer, we want to find out not a mole. Avogadro number from any material, it is also a mole. The number of grams is the sum of the masses of all the atoms in a compound. That is not a mole. Number of grams නෙමෙයි. Relative atomic masses. Sorry, relative atomic masses or the relative molecular masses in grams. We get a when we take it in grams, you say it as a mole. So this is not a mole. So here, the mole is the amount of substance that contain as many basic building units as there are atoms in exactly 12 grams of carbon 12 isotope. මේ තියෙන්නේ. Carbon 12 isotope එකේ තියෙන්නේ මෙච්චරයි. If you take 1 gram of hydrogen, it's also contained this much. So that means if you take jack seeds this much, so that means it's a mole. The molecules, right? Hope you will refresh. I think you have to go through these things again. Number 32. Deaths and destruction of property due to natural disasters. Disasters are increases today. Natural disasters. The best measure that can be adopted to minimize losses during such a disaster. That means during such a disaster. These two are the important things. During such a disaster, and you have to consider about natural disasters. Right? Becoming aware, what are the natural disasters? Then you must recall what are natural disasters. Maybe floods, maybe landslides, maybe tsunami, maybe volcano eruptions, lot of things. Those must be natural. Correct? Earthquakes, all. And also you have to measure the best measure that can be adapted to minimize losses during. That means when a disaster is happening. not prior, right? When it is happening, what is the measure that you have to adopt to minimize the losses? Becoming aware about the environmental pollution and taking steps to minimize is, that means we are doing it prior to the disaster. හරිද? So this can't be. Refraining from deforestation of hilly areas and setting fires to forest in such areas. Yes, you have to take these measures to prevent natural disasters, but it is not happening. This is not a measure that you have to take during a disaster. So you can't take this on also as an answer. Evacuating the disaster prone areas and resettling the safe areas. That means also happening before, right? So evacuating කියන්නේ disaster එකක් ඇති වෙයි කියලා තියෙන ප්‍රදේශවලින් මිනිස්සුන්ව අයින් කරලා resettle කරනවා safe areas. ඒ කියන්නේ prior we have to identify such areas and we can practice it before the disaster. But what you have to do is you have to find the answer what you can adapt it during such a disaster. So paying attention well to the warning on disasters and preparation in advance. That means you have to listen to the radio guidance, or in sometimes the Air Force or the police will announce. So then you have to pay attention well to the warning about the disaster and preparation in advance. So answer must be the fourth one. Third one, 23rd, 33rd. It is revealed that there is a gaseous fuel ore in the Sri Lankan seabed. So හොයාගෙන තියෙනවා gaseous fuel. What gas would most probably be major component of that ore? So definitely it must be a hydrocarbon. So that is methane. All these are not hydrocarbons, and neon is a noble gas. So you cannot take these as a fuel even. So methane must be the answer. Which of the following values is equivalent to a mole of ethanol and mole of ethane? So these are the two substances, ethanol and ethane. Not ethene, it is ethane. Ethane. So if you take the masses, that can't be similar, right? If you take the number of atoms, it's in a mole. අහන්නේ මොකද්ද? Equivalent to a mole of ethanol and mole of ethane, right? If you take the number of atoms here, you can see the number of atoms in a molecule is not equal, right? So it is also not equal in a mole. Volume also different, but number of molecules, if you take number of 1 mole of ethanol, it contains this kind of molecules in 6.02 to 10 to the power 23 number. If you take ethane also, if you take 1 mole, this much of molecules are there. So the answer must be number of molecules are equal in 1 mole of ethane and 1 mole of ethanol, because containing Avogadro number of molecules of each. So the 35th question, what is the true statement about neon atom and sodium ion? So if you write neon, here they are asking about electron, proton and neutrons. 10, 20. So neon atom contain, let's write down protons, neutrons and electrons here. This is the atomic number that is equal to the proton number, that is 10, and it is equal to the electron. And by subtracting the atomic number from mass number, you will find neutron number. If you take sodium ion, You must remember that atomic number won't change because it is a unique property of any element. So number of protons are 11, number of neutrons are subtract 11 from 23, that is 12. And electron here, you know that it formed an ion. That means releases 1 electron. Now it contains only 10 electrons. So now it's easy for you to find the answer. The number of electrons in both is equal. Yes, here it's really easy to find the answer. Number of protons in both is equal. No, this is not equal. Number of neutrons in both is equal. No, that is also not equal. Number of protons in both is greater than the number of neutrons. No. Here, proton and neutrons are equal. Here, neutrons are greater than protons. So you can't take the fourth one also as answer, but the answer is the first one. 36th. Given below is an incomplete segment of a periodic table. The symbols are not the real ones. Find the correct statement. V and Y belongs to the first group, and X and Y belongs to the seventh group. W belongs to the second group. The reactivity of Y is greater than V. So when you consider the first and second group, actually, when you go along down the group, you know potassium is reactive than sodium. So reactivity of Y is greater than V is correct. W shows more metallic features than that of V. It can't be happen because along the period from left to right, the metallic features goes down. So even though W is a metal, but its metallic properties are lower than the first group element. So this one is wrong. The melting point of Y and Y is less than V. Actually, you cannot say about it because both the things are almost similar, very small differentiation there. Z is more reactive than Y. Z is more reactive than Y. Y means this one. Z is more reactive than Y. If you take chlorine gas and potassium, so Z is not reactive than Y. Y is reactive than Z. So the answer must be the first one. Which of the following is the non-living structure of a plant cell? So it's obvious, no need to spend much time. Cell wall is the non-living structure in the plant cell because it is consisted with cellulose in sometimes decomposited with lignin. So cell wall is the structure that is non-living. Which of the following plants is a non-flowering plant with seeds? So paddy and grass, you can omit those two answers because those are flowering. So you have to think about these two. So nephroliphids are the ferns, so they produce spores, not seeds. So the answer must be the cycas. 39. Some activities carried out after felling trees in a forest are given below. Some activities. Among them, which one contributes most to increase the carbon dioxide percentage in the atmosphere in a short period of time? These are the important words. Harida, in a short period of time. Within a very short period of time, which one helps to increase the carbon dioxide percentage in the atmosphere? So growing vegetable crops in the area. So no, that is not. So letting cut down parts decompose naturally. No, it does not increase the carbon dioxide percentage in the atmosphere in a short period of time. Using parts of timber for construction, that is also not. Burning the parts cut down. That means immediately we burn the cut down parts. So that helps to increase the carbon dioxide percentage in the atmosphere in a short period of time. So answer must be the fourth one. 40th, the last one. The information relevant to the motion of an object in a straight line is given below. It is given the time and the displacement. If you draw a displacement time graph, so you can get an idea. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 like that, and you can mark the displacement. One thing you have to remember, if you draw a displacement time graph, the gradient gives you the velocity. Harry, if you find here, this one gives you in the velocity of the graph. Now let's see. In a velocity time graph, the gradient gives you the acceleration. This is uniform acceleration with increasing velocity. If you look, by looking at this graph, you cannot say anything about, here you can say uniform velocity. Yes, uniform velocity. The object has moved at a uniform velocity during the total period of time. So let's see, in the first, at the beginning, the displacement is 0. The first second moves 4 meters, and the second 8 meters, and the third one 10 meters, and 14th, then ඔන්න වෙනස් වෙනවා. 14th, 4th second 14th, ඔහොමම යනවා. So then you have to find the velocities from each of the seconds. එහෙම නැත්නම් up to this part, like that wise you can take the time intervals and find the velocity. If you take the each of the second, what is the velocity? So here velocity is the change of rate of displacement. Final displacement minus initial displacement divided by time. If you take the velocity here, final displacement is 4 meters, initial 0, time taken 4. So the velocity is 4 meters per second. If you take this, the second, right? Second, දෙවෙනි තප්පරේදී එයාගේ velocity එකට මොකද වෙලා තියෙන්නේ කියලා බැලුවොත් v2 is equal to final displacement is 8, initial 4 divided by again 1. ඒ කියන්නේ අපි මේ වෙනස ගන්න නිසා 4 divided by 1 again 4 meters per second. If you take the v3, that means 10 minus 8 because it starts from 8th meter. ඒකයි එහෙම ගත්තේ. හරි. Divide by 1. 2 divided by 1, that means 2 meters per second. If you take the fourth one, 14 minus 10 divided by 1, 4 meters per second. If you take the fifth one, v5, 16 minus 4, 14 is 2 divided by 1, 2 meters per second. Sixth, v6, 18 minus 16 is 2 again, 2 meters per second. So you can't say that throughout the motion, the velocity is not uniform. The object has moved at a uniform velocity during the total period of time. You can't say it has been changing, right? The mean velocity of the object is 3 meters per second during the entire motion. So for that, you know, mean velocity when you find the mean velocity, you have to consider the total displacement divided by the total time taken to complete the motion. So that the mean velocity, the total displacement is 18 divide by, total displacement is 18 divided by 6, that is 3 meters per second. That one is correct for the motion. Object has become again to the starting position. No. If it is so, the displacement must be 0. It does not say anything about the about that, whether it comes back to the starting position. So if it comes back to the starting position, definitely this displacement must be 0. So you can't take this as the answer. The total distance traveled by the object is 70 meters. That is also wrong. This is the total distance. So the answer is the second one. Okay, children, now within 1 hour and 20 minutes, we have completed the first section. So what's your idea? Shall we move to the second part as well straight away? Madam, are you there? Madam, children, shall we move? So then I hope we can discuss at least what about, shall I move? Okay, without hurry. පුතේ එහෙනම් අපි යනවා structured එකට. Okay, right. Can you see the structured question paper?
Yes,
Anyone,
teacher.
please?
Yes,
Okay.
teacher.
Here, now you must know. Now we have, I think I will be able to do this for the whole thing within this given time period. So always remember the first question normally asked from your biosphere lesson, right? It is actually happening throughout these years. So in the first question, for this so far actually getting either a table, either graph or a kind of picture related to the questions. Correct? But now we are focusing for the first and second term work in the grade 10 work. But for the benefit of you, I put a question related to the current situation because it is also a we can discuss about. It is also related to the biosphere. So this one actually maybe not a good question, but wanted you to practice about how to read, not to see, how to read the graph carefully. If you are given a graph or if you are given a picture, always learn to read the picture. I'm not using just see the picture. Read the picture means you must, the clues are given always inside the picture or the graph or the diagram, whatever given. So you have to look at the given thing, look at the given picture or the graph or the table, whatever, very concentrated in a very careful manner, right? Because many things are given in the graph. So here, the above graph shows the amount of carbon dioxide released into the atmosphere globally per day in metric tons. According to this chart, the amount of carbon dioxide released into the atmosphere in the first quarter of 2020 has changed significantly in recent history. Here you can see two graphs. First one starting from 1970 to 2020, and the second graph gives you a deep give a graph to understand what has happened in the first quarter of the year 2020, how this carbon dioxide released, or how the amount of carbon dioxide in the releasing of carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. So second graph from January to May. So you can understand now. We'll move to the and also pay your attention to the y-axis, the metric tons per day, carbon dioxide, metric tons per day, release of carbon dioxide, global daily fossil carbon dioxide emission, metric tons per day. දවසකට කොච්චරක් metric tons release කරලාද කියලා තමයි මේකෙන් දෙන්නේ. එතකොට ඔයාලට පේනවා මේකේ කොහොම විදියට. ඒක straight line එකක් නෙමෙයි. There are some fluctuations in the graph, right? What is the reason for the reduction in carbon dioxide emission by 2020? Mainly, you have to remember what has happened the last year, right? So for the globally, we are facing a global pandemic situation. You know, many of the countries in the world declared lockdown periods. So at that time, many of the industries ceased and the transportation is stopped. So due to lockdown of many countries, cease of functioning of industries and less consumption of fossil fuel, limited transportation, we can see this kind of lowering of carbon dioxide emission during the first quarter, right? So you have to please aware about what is happening in the country, what is happening in the world these days. Because the first question, all these things can be included into the first question because it is from biosphere, right? Okay, so the answer must be, there is, you can write in your own way to give give a kind of idea about this thing. You can say less functioning of the factories or not transporting. Likewise, you can say this is what I wrote as the answer. Due to the lockdown of many countries, cease of functioning industries, and the less consumption of fossil fuel and limited transportation, etc. If you move to the what is the percentage of carbon dioxide in the normal atmosphere? Actually, it is not indicated in here, but you must know that those are some general knowledge. 0.03% to 0.04% carbon dioxide in the normal atmosphere. You have already learned it when you were in grade 6 about the atmosphere. Write down a possible adverse effect caused by the increase of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So when the carbon dioxide level is increased, you know that it is a greenhouse gas. What will happen? Increase the global warming. You can write down as increasing temperature in the world, like that, right? And also you can write, because of the global warming, melting of glaciers happen. So I advise you to write the exact effect occurs due to carbon dioxide. Write the two major Asian countries that emit carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. That is also a general knowledge that you have to know. China and India are the two major Asian countries that emits carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. If you take China, it is the country, I think now it becomes the first carbon dioxide emitter if you take globally. So China and India are the two major Asian countries, right? Indicate the month and amount of carbon dioxide emission per day in 2022 as shown in the graph above. So you need nothing to worry about. You just observe the graph carefully. So, which indicate the month and amount of carbon dioxide emission per day. That must be, there is some indicate the month and about carbon dioxide emission per day. I think it must be the least month වෙන්න ඕනේ නේද? එතන පොඩි අඩුවක් තියෙනවා. අඩුම මාසෙ කියලා ගත්තනම් තමයි ඒක හරි. මම එහෙම හිතලා තමයි මේකට දාලා තියෙන්නේ. That means one word is missing there. Indicate the month and amount of carbon dioxide emission least per day. There must, a word must come there. ඔගොල්ලෝ මෙතන හදාගන්න. Emission is less කියලා ගන්නකො. Less or least per day in 2020 as shown in the graph above. එතන වචනයක් අඩුයි. So the answer must be here, the April, month April, and you can take it a rough value you can write. Here, if you take middle as 90, so in between this one falls, so 85 metric tons. Write two other possible effects of global warming. So that's why I said you have to write here the exact adverse effect. So this one is related to the other effects due to global warming. Melting of glaciers, rise of sea level, inundation of island. Inundation කියන්නේ ගිලෙනවා. වතුරෙන් යට වෙනවා. That word is very specific for this situation. So entry of saline water to the land. All these are possible things. You can write some other possible things as well. What is the energy producing biomechanism? Taking carbon dioxide as a raw material. Biomechanism එක අහනවා. Taking carbon dioxide a raw material which is seen in some of the living being. That is, so this is the clue that you have to think. Carbon dioxide is a raw material in photosynthesis. And also the term energy producing biomechanism. Biomechanism means happening within living things. So that is photosynthesis. Write 3 advantages of the above mentioned mechanism. That means again indirectly asking you what are the advantages of photosynthesis. Right? So you have to write the advantages of photosynthesis. So it is the main process that supplies food for living being. That is the major thing. Without green plants, without photosynthesis, no any living being can be exist in the world. So it also controls the global warming by absorbing carbon dioxide. Because of green plants, we can maintain the carbon dioxide level in the atmosphere. So it is also an advantage. Produces oxygen for the respiration of living beings. So you know that as a byproduct, oxygen is releasing during photosynthesis. So oxygen is an essential gas for all of us to respire. Control the carbon dioxide level in the atmosphere. You can write 3 from these answers. So again, now second question. Here giving a practical. 2 milliliters of starch solution, adding 2 milliliters of amylase enzyme to the starch solution. And then first you have to understand what is happening in this picture, what gives you. So once you put a drop here, starch plus amylase mixture and adding an iodine drop. So I hope all of you have done this practical at school. So this is a very common practical. Starch and amylase belong to which of the major biological group? You have to write to which biological group starch belong and amylase belong. Starch and amylase belong to which of the major biological groups? What are the major biological groups you know? In other words, asking about the biomolecules. What are the 4 biomolecules you know? Carbohydrate, protein, lipids, and nucleic acids. Those are the 4. And other than that, you have to learn about vitamins as well. So then, starch belongs to the major biological molecule is carbohydrate. Amylase is a enzyme. All enzymes are protein, so it belongs to protein. Describe what happens to starch in this activity. Here, once you put amylase enzyme, what is happening? This amylase converted to simple sugars or glucose, right? Amylase දාන්නේ digestion එකටනේ. ඒතකොට අපි දන්නවා එහෙනම් මේ starch එක convert වෙනවා simple sugar එකට. Why it is needed to take an aqueous solution of starch here? We have to take aqueous solution. First, we prepare a starch. That means we have to mix some water and get the filtrate of starch and conduct the activity. Because here, water acted as a reactant in the process of hydrolysis of starch into glucose. Water also involved here and helps to do the hydrolysis of starch into glucose, not only enzyme, right? So that is the answer for this one. Give the function of amylase in this activity and mention 2 ways of getting amylase. Function amylase means actually enzyme. Enzymes are biocatalyst. Biocatalyst එකක් ගැන ඉගෙනගෙන තියෙනවානේ. එයා ඉන්නකොට මේ function එක enhance කරනවා. And how we can get amylase? We can buy it from market itself as amylase enzyme, or else you can get the extraction from germinating mung bean or any grain seed, germinating seed, grain seed. Cite 2 strategies that we can apply to improve the efficiency of the test. How can we improve, or how can we improve the efficiency? So we have to shake it, shake it time to time. That means with this amylase and starch mixture, we have to shake it time to time. And the other thing is we must get a pure amylase enzyme. So these are the 2 strategies that we can apply to improve the efficiency of the test. Part B. The diagram given shows how an animal cell is observed via an electron microscope. Name A, B, and C structures in the diagram. A is the nucleus membrane. Here you can see the arrowhead goes to the membrane. B is the mitochondrion. C is the cell membrane. Name structures or organelles which are responsible for the given below functions. Storing of genetic materials happening within the nucleus. Mitochondria, production of energy by breaking down of glucose. That is the main function of mitochondria. Name the chemical in a structure A which controls the production of protein. That means actually structure A means here means the nucleus. Nucleus එක ඇතුලේ තියෙන protein synthesis වලට වැදගත් වෙන්නේ කවුද? DNA. If you go through the functions of nucleic acid, it is also given as it involves in protein synthesis. That is the one function of DNA, another function of DNA, right? So given below are 2 diagrams of a sperm cell and a human cheek cell. Look at the appearance, outer appearance. So what is the reason for having 2 different outer appearance for these 2 cells? When you look at these cells, these cheek cells are called as somatic cells. somatic cells කියන්නේ දෛහික සෛල. These are somatic cells. These are reproductive cells or gametes, right? So when you look at the cheek cells, they are round and not moving. They just as where it is and absorb water and nutrients. So because of they no need to move, so they are where it is. But some sperm cells having an elongated body because it needs to move through the small vessels and swim through to the fallopian tube. So these are the reasons. They must mobile, they are immobile. So due to the mobility, they need the elongated body. So this one is not mobile, so need not to have such a shape. So this one needs this kind of round shape to absorb the nutrients and water efficiently. Right? How the sperm nucleus differs from cheek cell nucleus. So now you have to think about the number of chromosomes in the two cells. Sperm cell is haploid, that means N. Out of 46 chromosomes, it contains 23. Cheek cell is a diploid that has 2N. This must be simple. 2N chromosomes. So, and also sperm cell contains either X. X means from mother, part came from mother. X and sex chromosomes selling either X or either Y is there in sperm cell. But in the cheek cells, either XX or XY are there because they are diploid cells. That is those are the two major differences. Haploid and diploid containing X or Y, but cheek cells are somatic having XX or XY. What is the significance of the two nuclei being different from each other? ඇයි එහෙම වෙන්න තියෙන වැදගත්කම කියලා අහන්නේ. What is the significance of two nuclei being different from each other? Because sperm cells, during fertilization fused with the egg cell nucleus. So then only that zygote become 2N. If what will happen if sperm cell also having 2N, egg cell also having 2N, then after fusion it get 4N. So that is a kind of a very different type of species. That to stop such kind of thing, because we want to keep the number of chromosomes constant. So that we wanted to keep it in haploid form to have a constant number of chromosomes. Cheek cells actually during cell division, they use the meiosis. Yes, meiotic. That means they form similar number of cells. So then during cell division wanted to keep them as 2N. So then we'll move to the third question. A minus. There are A, B, C, and D are atoms or ions of several different elements. If you look at the A, B, A minus, B, C plus, D plus 3. Again, A is an positive ion and negative ion. A is a negative ion. B just given as an element. C formed a positive ion. D positive 3 ion. The electronic configurations of each of these particles is 2 and 8. එච්චරයි දීලා තියෙන්නේ. Complete the given table related to A, B, C, and D. So, what you have to write? Here, the electronic configuration of each of these particles is 2, 8. So, considering this one, you have to find the proper electronic configurations of A, B, and C, D. A, B, C, and D. Here given ionic configuration. So if you look at A, it is a negative. Negative one means එතන මොකද්ද? B එක ලියලා තියමු අපි B එක මම මෙතන වරද්දලා නේද? A negative means it takes one. හරි. A minus කියන්නේ එයාගේ electronic configuration එක 28 වෙලා තියෙනවා after gaining one electron. එහෙනම් previously before it takes an electron, A must have 2,7 electronic configuration. Shall I repeat it again? If A negative ion has 2,8 electronic configuration, but if you take A, that means before it forms the negative ion, it must have one electron less than that of this form. So its electronic configuration must be 2 and 7. That's why I put 2, 7 here. So when it is in the neutral form, that means as in the element form, 2, 7 is the atomic number. So at that time, it is equal to electron number, right? So you write 9, 2, 7. හරිද? එහෙනම් මෙයා කවුද? 27 තියෙන්නේ කාටද? 7 තියෙන්නේ කාටද? 27 means 9. 9 කියන එක්කෙනා කවුද? Fluorine. So the number of protons, atomic number and number of protons අහන්නේ. එහෙනම් atomic number is 9, number of protons 9, electronic configuration is 2, 7. If you take B, it is an element, it is in the neutral form, it is given as 2, 8. So you write it is as it is. So 2, 8 together, 10, that is number of electrons are equal to the number of protons when it is in the neutral form. So number of protons are also 10. So the atomic number is the number of protons in the element. So that is 10. C plus means it releases one electron from it. So that means before form the C plus, C must have that electron in its last shell. So now it is having 2, 8. So before it releases one electron, that must be added to the last shell. So electronic configuration of C is 2, 8, 1. So in the neutral form, electron number is equal to the proton number, that is 11, and proton number is the atomic number, that is also 11. When you take D3 form, means 3 electrons are left. So in the D and D plus, it's given as 2, 8. So then D must be 2, 8, 3. So number of electrons here, 13. When it is in the neutral form, it is equal to the proton, that is 13. Atomic number is 13. So once you find these things correctly, it is easy you to complete the table given. So A is the 7th group 1, B is the 8th group 1, C again first group, D belongs to the 3rd group, right? Write the formula of the oxide of element D. Actually, D is the aluminium, but you should not write aluminium here because you have to ask you to find the oxide of element D. So then remember, you have to use the given symbol. So what is the valency of D? It belongs to 3rd group. So valency is 3 because it releases 3 electrons, and oxygen belongs to the 6th group, needed to 2 electrons involved in bonding. So valence is 2. So when you cis crossing D2, so then what you have to write, D2O3. Here, this is the answer. If it is considered that 23 grams of sodium contains 6.0 to 10 to the power 23 number of atoms, and also it termed as a mole. That means number of Avogadro constant, or this much of number of atoms is present in 1 mole. 1 mole is when you take the relative atomic mass in grams, it is equal to the mass of 1 mole. Therefore, in other words, we can say when you take 23 in grams, it contains 1 mole and it contains 6.0 to 10 to the power 23 number of atoms. So find the relative molecular mass of ethanol. So this is a clue to understand the concept. That means when the relative molecular mass or the atomic mass in grams, it is equal to the mass of 1 mole, and that 1 mole contains this much of molecules or atoms. So that gives you to refresh your mind about moles. So everything is there. So it is easy for you to find the answers for the questions. Find the relative molecular mass of ethanol. The formula is also given and the relative atomic mass is also given. So just you have to find C2. That means 12 into 2 plus hydrogen, 5 into 1 plus again oxygen, 1 into 16 plus again hydrogen, 1 into 1 is equal 24 plus 5 plus 16 plus 1, 46. This is the relative molecular mass. If you write here grams, so you won't get a mark. Please remember relative word here. Relative molecular masses do not have any unit. So if you put gram here, you won't get a mark. Please write it as in a value, right? Okay, when 23 grams of ethanol are dissolved in 36 grams of water, find the total number of molecules in the solution, right? It seems as a bit difficult one, but if you go through stepwisely, you feel that it is not that difficult as you think. I will take another color to explain you here. When 23 grams of ethanol are dissolved in 36 grams of water. First of all, it's better if you find the number of moles in each of the masses, right? Now, ethanol, you found the relative molecular mass. Water, you know the relative molecular mass is 18. ඒක හැම වෙලේම දන්න දෙයක් නේ. එහෙනම් බලන්න මෙතන කොච්චරක් moles තියනවද කියලා. 23 grams. So, number of moles of ethanol, ETOH කියන්නම්කෝ, is equal to mass divided by molar mass. That is 23 divided by 46. Then water, moles of water is equal to 36 divided by 18. It's 2. මෙතන කීයද? 36 grams of 18. Yes, මෙතන 2. මෙතන තියෙන්නේ half. නේද? 0.5. So the total number of moles present here, 2.5. So then what you have to do? Find the total number of molecules in the solution. Whatever it is, if you take 1 mole contain Avogadro number. So then whether it is ethanol or whether it is water, no matter. If you take 1 mole, it contains Avogadro number. If you take 2.5, so you have to multiply by it 0.25. So answer should be 2.5 into 6.02 10 to the power 23 number of molecules. Right? Here actually, how many moles of ethanol and water does that solution contain? So it is 2.5. Now we have found to make the second question. Actually, this must come here and this must come down, but whatever it is, right? When two, is it okay to move? You want to write down? අපිට හැබැයි මේ ස්පීඩ් එකෙන් ගියොත් මුළු පේපර් එකම කතා කරන්න පුළුවන්. Okay? Right. When 2 moles of sodium chloride are dissolved in 180 grams of water, what can be the mass of the solution? If you take 2 moles of sodium chloride dissolved in 180 grams of water, what can be the mass of solution? So, it's easy. 2 moles. What is the relative molecular mass of sodium chloride? So, it is 58.5. If you take 2 moles of sodium chloride, that means the mass of that 117 grams. That means you have to multiply by 2 here. So no need to bother about this one. So you have to just straight away add that 180 to this 117 grams. So that is 297 grams. Only here you have to find out the mass of 2 moles of sodium chloride. That is 117 plus 180 together form the solution 297 grams. Right. Okay. Now let's move to the third question. The figure shows a way of hitting a ball by a cricket player. The ball, which has a mass of 0.16 kilogram, hits the bat with a speed of 25 meters per second. The ball remains on the bat for 0.0013 seconds and returns to the initial direction, which comes from a speed of 22 meters per second. Right? What is the difference between speed and velocity? A very simple one. You know, speed has a magnitude, or it is a scalar quantity. Velocity has a magnitude and a direction, so it is a vector quantity, right? You can write it as differences. Speed has only a magnitude, but velocity has a magnitude and direction, or as you can say, speed is a scalar quantity, but velocity is a vector quantity. Whatever you wrote, it is correct. So calculate the velocity difference of the ball. I know this is a bit difficult to understand. So here you have to understand, now ball comes from this direction and hits here. So as it gives us the velocities, need to think about the direction. So if you take the ball hitting on the direction as the positive, once it hit on the bat and moves back to the same direction. මේ පැත්තට යනවා, හැබැයි දැන් direction එක වෙනස් වෙනවා. So that means once, and it says that ball remains on the bat for 0.0.3 seconds. මෙතන චුට්ට වෙලාවක් ඉඳලා, ඒ කියන්නේ වැදිලා තප්පර ගානක රැඳිලා ආපහු යනවා. හරි? එහෙනම් මේ වදිනකොට වදින දිශාව, එන දිශාව අපි positive කියලා ගත්තොත්, ආපහු යන දිශාව අපි negative කියලා ගන්න ඕනේ. මොකද ඒක vector quantity එකක් නිසා. So velocity difference you can take as the final velocity minus initial velocity. So what is the final velocity here? Apahu yana එක, that means 22 meters per second. So you must write the sign also 22 meters per second. And you have to get the subtract it from the initial velocity. Initial velocity is the coming one, that is positive 25. හරිද? එතකොට minus 22 minus plus minus and plus මොකද වෙන්නේ? minus වෙනවා 25 the 47 meters per second. That is negative. හැබැයි ඔයාලා මේක අනිත් පැත්තට දාගත්තා කියන්නකෝ. යන එක positive කියලා එන එක negative කියලා ගත්තොත් ඔයාලට මේකේ එන්නේ positive 47. It is also correct. හැබැයි මතක තියාගන්න පුතේ මේක වැරදීමකින් විය හැකි මෙතෙන්ට දැම්මේ මේ වගේ මේ vectors අඩු කරන්න එකතු කරන්න ඕගොල්ලන්ගේ syllabus එකේ නෑ මේක දැන ගැනීමට ගන්න මේක මේ වගේ velocities එකතු කරන්න අඩු කරන්න ආවොත් you have to consider the signs also because it is a vector quantity. For your knowledge it is good to understand it in a way, right? But I don't think this kind of things will come to the exam paper, right? So it is minus 47 and it is plus 47. What is the average acceleration of the ball during the time that ball is in the bat? That means it is given that the time in the bat itself. So you have to take that. Now we know acceleration is the rate of change of velocity. Rate of change of velocity is the final velocity minus initial velocity divided by time taken. Right? Here acceleration කොච්චරද එහෙනම් මෙතන අපි 47 හොයාගත්තනේ minus 47 divided by 3.6 එතන තියෙන්නේ sorry 0.000013 එතකොට මේක අන්තිමට උත්තරේ එනවා 3.6 10 to the power 4 meters per square second. මේක negative පැත්තට තමයි එන්නේ. Negative පැත්තට කියන්නේ පිටිපස්සට. හරි. If you take 47 plus එතකොට මේ sign එක ප්‍රශ්නයක් නෑ. මෙහෙම ලියන්න පුළුවන්. හරි. Then the acceleration of free falling object from top to bottom, which is near the Earth's surface, is 9.8 meters per second. That is our gravitational acceleration. The acceleration of the free falling object from to bottom near the surface of the moon is 1.6 meters per second. If the mass of the object is 5 kilograms, calculate its weight in the given instances. Now you have to think about free falling. හරිද free falling කියන වචනේ හරි වැදගත් ළමයි. free falling කියන්නේ යා නිදහසේ වැටෙනවා. කොහෙද? පොළව ගාවට එනකොට earth surface එකට කිට්ටුවට එනකොට free falling වැටෙන object එකක් තියෙනවා. එම object එකම හඳ ගාවදී කියන්නේ moon එකේදී moon surface එකට කිට්ටුව free falling වැටෙන අවස්ථා දෙකක් දීලා තියෙනවා. In both situations, the same object is taken, right? Now you have to find the weight of the object near the Earth's surface. There you know that weight is equal to mg near the Earth's surface. So here you have to use the gravitational acceleration of the Earth. So you have to multiply by 5 by 9.8. So it is 49 Newton. Near the surface of the moon, then you have to multiply by 5 by 1.6. That is 8 Newton. මෙතන ඔයාලට බලලා තියෙනවා ඔය concept එක අපිට කතා කරන්න තියෙන එකක්. Gravity එක වෙනස් වෙන හැටි. So draw the velocity time graph when a nut falls freely from a tree top to the ground. Again, it is given freely, right? So nut before falls, it is in the stationary. So it starts falling freely. What will happen? With time, due to the gravitational acceleration of the gravity, it increases its velocity. So you have to draw the graph like this way. So now, force is a vector quantity. Find the vector quantities from the given below quantities. It is actually discussed in the earlier question also. Vector quantities are the quantities which are having a magnitude and as a direction. So thinking of that, acceleration, displacement, and velocity are the vector quantities. Mass and speed are the scalar quantities, right? We can obtain a 0 Newton and 10 Newton resultant forces by using two 5 Newton forces. Draw a diagram to show how to obtain a 0 resultant force by using two 5 Newton forces. Resultant force එක බිඳුව කරගන්න කොහොමද මේ දෙක යොදන්නේ කියලා අහන්නේ. එහෙනම් you know when you apply these two forces opposite directions, so you will get the resultant as the 0. Here this is taken from your book, I think, right? So then F net is equal to 0, this section. So when it comes to the picture, I think give me a second to find the next question. Right. Method. Then the other one, draw a diagram to show how to get the 10 Newton resultant force by using above 5 Newton force. So then you have to apply both the forces to the same direction. So you will get net 10 Newton, right? So draw the direction of moving the object if P and Q are 5 Newton forces. When the forces are in angle, you must remember the resultant will acted upon in between it. Here both are equal, so you have to write, draw the direction like this way. Now we came to the end of the structured question. Another 1 hour more to discuss the essay questions, right? So okay, පුතාලට මොනවා හරි, is it tired to move to the essay type questions? මේ පැයෙන් කතා කරලා ඉවර කරගන්න පුළුවන් වුණොත් ඒක මම හිතන්නේ ඔයාලට දැන් ඔයගොල්ලෝ බලලා තියෙන first second third sorry first and second මේවා විතරක් කතා කරන නිසා Madam, can you hear me?
Yes, Lakshmi.
Am I too fast? I have covered the MCQs and the structured questions, 4 structured questions. Now I have to cover up the essay type, 3 essay type questions. What shall I do? Shall I complete it straight away?
Yeah, it's better.
Okay, if they have any doubt, I don't know. But no one put anything to
So
the thing.
they can ask the questions through the chat, no?
Yeah,
Them too.
right. Okay. We'll move to the second part now. Here, children, actually, we have chosen 3 questions for you to answer. But in the exam paper, you will get 5 questions and you have a choice to select 3 questions out of them, right? So, normally the structure of the second part is the first question. That means the fifth, number 5 comes from biology, number 6 from chemistry, number 7 from physics, totally from physics. That means from biology, chemistry, or either physics comes from grade 10 work or else grade 11 or else a combination. That depends, right? But here we have to focus to the first term and second term biology section, first term, second term chemistry and physics, so on. But when you take your real exam paper, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9 question has, those 2 questions are having segments. So in the 8th question, you will get the part A from biology and part B from chemistry. The last question, question number 9, one part from physics and chemistry. Likewise, you can get that is the structure of the essay type question. But here you have no option. Only you have to answer these 3 questions because of the time constraints, right? So here, part B. Graph shows the increase in mass and time of a paddy plant during germination. Germination කියන්නේ අර ඇටේ පැලවෙන මේ කියන්නේ seed එක පැලවෙලා පුංචි sprouting එන කාලේ. එතකොට මොනවද වෙන්නේ? අපිට ඒක චුට්ටක් ඔළුවේ තියාගන්න. ඒවත් කමක් නැහැ. අමතකයි කියන්නකෝ. අමතක වුණාට always you have to remember. I again like to mention that you must learn to read the graph. Read, not just watch. Right here, y-axis is given in mass. Mass in grams. It is actually gram must be in your graph. It is a typing mistake. Forget to put gram there. So x-axis given in days. So understand what is happening in the graph. With the time passing, the increment of the masses shown in the figure. එනම් බර ටික වැඩි වෙන හැටි තියෙනවා. ඊට පස්සේ බර වැඩි වීමේ ශීඝ්‍රතාවය ඔයගොල්ලෝ බලන්න ඕනේ. After point C you can understand actually it comes to constant or මෙතනින් නැවතුණා කියලා හිතන්නකෝ. C වල point C එකේදී නැවතිලා තියෙනවා. මේ ටික little bit almost constant වගේ තියෙනවා after 100 days. So which part of the graph has the least growth? Growth means the increase of dry mass with time. එහෙනම් dry mass එක C වලදී වැඩි වෙලා තියෙන්නේ අඩුවෙන්. එහෙනම් least growth found in the section C. Right? Which section of the graph shows the highest growth? Highest growth means you have to think about the gradient of the graph. Right? ඉක්මනින් වැඩි වෙලා තියෙන්නේ අඩු කාලයකදී. එතකොට බලන්න මෙතන if you take part A, when you get this point, if we take dry mass content 20, to get the 20 grams of dry mass, spend 40 days. එතකොට gradient එක කොහොමද ඇවිල්ලා තියෙන්නේ? බොහොම ටිකයි. If you take this part B, so it is about here 70 වගේ තියෙනවා. මෙතන 20. 70 minus 20 is about 50. නේද? 50 වගේ ගමු. No. 50. එතකොට ඒක එච්චරක් වැඩි වෙලා තියෙන දවස් ගිහිල්ලා තියෙන්නේ 40යි. එතකොට දවසකදී වැඩිවීම කොච්චරද? 1.2 වගේ ප්‍රමාණයක් grams හැදිලා තියෙනවා. මෙතන තියෙන්නේ 0.5 වැඩි වෙනකොට මෙතන 1.2 grams හැදිලා තියෙනවා. එහෙනම් which section of the graph shows the highest growth should be B, because shows the higher slope or higher gradient than A, right? So answer must be there. What is the approximate ratio of the growth of part B to the growth of part A? Approximate ratio එක. මෙයා 0.5 වෙනකොට ratio එක. 0.5 වෙනකොට මෙයා 1.5. එහෙනම් approximate ratio of the growth of part B to the growth of part A. කොච්චරක් times ද කියලා බලන්න. 1.5 sorry 0.5 එනකොට 0.5 වැඩි වෙනකොට මෙයා 1.5 වගේ ගමු අපි විතර 1.2 කියන එක චුට්ටක් roughly නෙගන්නේ අපි. ඒතර කී ගුණයක්ද? එකහමාරක ගුණයක් වැඩි වෙලා තියෙනවා. right? Simply state the reason for the එතන දෙකහමාරක් වෙන්නේ කොහොමද? මෙතන 20 එනකොට no එතන එන්න ඕනේ 1.5 තමයි. හරි? එතකොට simply says the reason for the growth difference in section A and B. ඇයි එහෙම වෙන්නේ? මෙතන මම 40 days වලට 20 grams 40 days වලට 70. ඒ කියන්නේ 20 half. Yes. Here I made a mistake I think here. In the part B, if you take 40 days, it increases 20 grams, right? If we take the part B, 80 to 40 again, 40 days වලට 20 මෙතනට 40 වෙනකොට 20 40 වෙනකොට මෙතනට 20 තියෙනවා 60 වෙනකොට again 20 මෙතන again 10 එතකොට 2 and half හොඳද 2 and half මේකට එන්න ඕනේ 2 and half තමයි ratio එක 0.5 ට then 2 and half තමයි වැඩි වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. Approximate ratio of the growth of part B is 2 and half of part A. ඒ වගේ දෙකමාරක් ගුණයක් වැඩි. එහෙනම් ratio ඇයි කියලා අහනවා මෙහෙම වෙන්නේ. Simply state the reason for the growth difference in section A and B. ඇයි මුලදී මොකද වෙලා තියෙන්නේ? ඇයි දැන් මොකද dry mass එක වැඩි වෙන්නේ දැන් seedling එක හැටියට එන නිසා because of the growth of other part of the now seed become a seedling so then the dry mass content is increases when the seedlings are coming out sprouting out they starts to do the photosynthesis as well so because of that now it increases its dry mass mass. Now, given below is a very common animal. According to the animal classification, give its phylum. Phylum actually chordata, which is not mentioned in your book, but they have given you this one, longitudinal section of a chordata. All we learn about five different phylums comes under chordates. So, phylum is chordata, class Mammalia, right? Give 2 reasons why the above animal belong to the above phylum as you have mentioned. So you have to give the phylum means chordata, phylum chordata. Actually, it is specifically not given in your textbook, but it is given this diagram in your book. So there you can take the presence of ventral heart is a one specific feature to put the animals to that phylum. And another thing is the presence of spinal cord and noctocord. No need to write these things. At least you have to remember presence of ventral heart and the presence of spinal cord are the 2 things. And the postanal tail helps you to put this animal to the phylum chordata. Right? Remember that is not given in words but given in a diagram in your textbook, right? Give 2 external features or morphological features that can be seen in an animal that belongs to the above class. So that means asking about the features of the class Mammalia. So you have to write the features of mammalian features. presence of mammary glands. That is a very common thing that you have to remember. And skin is covered by hair and earlobes, presence of external earlobes and four-chambered heart, complete blood circulation. All these things are given in the textbook actually. So you can write either two or one feature, one or two external features. Earlobes, you can remember that presence of earlobes and the presence of mammary glands, thinking about class Mammalia. Mention a special feature that can be found in the heart of an animal that belongs to the above class. Four-chambered. Think about human beings. We are having four chambers. So you can write four-chambered heart. How to get nutrition after the calves of the above animal are born? Pataunt kiri denne කොහොමද? Feeding by mother. That is why we කිරිබී වැඩෙන සතුන් කියලානේ අපි mammalians වලට කියන්නේ. එහෙනම් we have mammary glands and we feed our small ones. So the same as this cow also feed their calves by using their mammary glands. So feeding by mother. Same as animals, to ensure the continuity of life, plants also do reproduction as well as dispersal of fruits and seeds. So remember here now we are talking about something else. Same as animals, to ensure the continuity of life, plants also do reproduction. So state two main methods of reproduction seen in plants. For that you must know, unlike animals, they can do sexual reproduction as well as asexual reproduction. So that is the answer. State two ways in which one method differs from other method. Here children, this is a essay type question. When you are asked to write, differentiate or write similarities, whatever. So it's better. I advise you to have a small table like that. So then the person who is marking your answer sheet, so then he or she can see your answers very clearly. The other thing I will talk about those things at the later. So we'll move to the discussion. So sexual reproduction. Think about, there are so many. Sexual reproduction, flower is the organ, right? Flower is the organ. And asexual reproduction, other than the flower, all the other parts can be taken as the reproductive part. So, and in sexual reproduction, you can obtain different varieties. But asexual reproduction, you can remember we have to do a lot of methods: budding, grafting, layering, and artificial propagation methods. There are so then all are similar to the parent. There are so many. You can write in sexual reproduction, you form gametes. In asexual reproduction, no such thing happens, no gametes are involving. Like that you can write, right? I wrote here some major important features. Tissue culture is an artificial propagation method of plants in modern day. Name a substance that should be obtained in the nutrient medium used in the tissue culture. So there you can write varieties of things. Sometimes we put growth hormones, sometimes sodium chloride. Not actually, sometimes we have to put sodium chloride, vitamins, or else growth hormones, right? You can write one of them. So now we completed the first question. Second question, right? Given below table shows the electronegativity of first 20 elements, right? This is a different way of giving questions, right? So I just want to give you this kind of questions actually you may not found when you go through the past papers, but I gave you this one to this actually, by doing this kind of things, you will improve a lot of skills. One thing, you learn to draw a graph carefully, correctly, and marking the axes correctly. And what you do is you put the correct data and the data accurately in the graph. So I just mark some few things, so then you can do it as the way that I have marked here. So nothing to worry, just to put the data into this graph, right? Electronegativity is given, values are given, elements are given, and the two axes is also given you. Here, what you have to do, you have to mark the element, x-axis you have to mark, write the as elements, and y-axis electronegativity, right? And what you have to do, you have to put the data, transfer the data to the graph paper, right? So likewise, you have to draw this one. So hydrogen, it says 2.1, helium 0, lithium 1, beryllium 1.5, carbon 2.5. So you have to color this up to 2.5. හරි පාට පාටින් හරි ඔහොම දාගන්න. Nitrogen 3. I will use different colors. Nitrogen up to third color. දැන් ඔයාලා පාඩම් කරනකොටත් මෙහෙම දාගත්තා නම් ඔයාලට හරි ලේසි මේක මතක තියාගන්න. So then comes oxygen 3.5. Oxygen 3.5. So first mark the end point and then go through this, right? So then fluorine 4. Neon again 0, nothing. හරිද? මම මෙතන පාට කරාට මෙතන 0.1 ගානක් එන්නේ නැහැ. හරි? Sodium again 0.9. Sodium 0.9 means less than 1. මේ හරියෙන් එනවා. හරි? Sodium. Then magnesium 1.2. Magnesium again 1.2. චූට්ටක් උඩට එනවා. 1.2. Aluminium 1.5. Aluminium 1.5. Somewhere here. හරි? ඊට පස්සේ silicon 1.8. ඉතින් ලොකු දෙයක් නෑ ඔයාලට මේක පාඩම් කරන්න උදව් වෙන හින්දා මම මේක කරනවා 1.8. Phosphorus 2.8. ඔය විදිහට දැන් අපි ඇඳගෙන යනවනේ. Without wasting time, I just move, right? Then given below table shows the electronegativity for 20 elements. What is meant by electronegativity? You have to write what is electronegativity. Electronegativity මොකක්ද කියන එක ඔළුවේ තියෙන්න ඕනේ. Those are the, you learn about the patterns of the periodic table. Only 2 patterns you have to learn. What are they? Periodic table එකේ ඔයාලා දෙකයි ඉගෙන ගන්න. Patterns. Sorry. One is the first ionization energy, how it differs from first ionization energy differs along the period and the groups. So then the other thing is you have to learn about the electronegativity. හරිද? ඔය දෙකනේ පුතාලට තියෙන්නේ ඉගෙන ගන්න. එතකොට electronegativity ඉලෙක්ට්‍රොනෙගටිවිටි එක කියන්නේ මොකක්ද කියලා මතක තියාගන්න ඕනේ. ඒක ඔයගලන්ට දැන් මේ වෙනකොට අමතක වෙලා නම් මතක් කරගන්න ඕනේ. Right? So I will move to the textbook thing to remember. I'm sorry to scrolling down this long, right? Here. Because it is easy for you to recall your things once you look at the textbook thing. So because it is very familiar. So here you learn all these things in your grade 10 first term. First ionization energy and the electronegativity. First ionization energy is an element needed to minimum energy that should be supplied to an atom in the gaseous state to remove an electron. ඒ කියන්නේ ඉලෙක්ට්‍රෝන එකක් ඉවත් කරන්න දෙන්න ඕනේ අපම එනර්ජි එකට තමයි අපි කිව්වේ first ionization energy කියලා. But here we are talking about the electronegativity. That means the ability, හැකියාව of an atom, an element to attract. යම් කිසි මූලද්‍රව්‍යයක element එකක තියෙන atom එකකට තියෙන හැකියාව මොන හැකියාවද? Attract the electrons of a bond towards itself when it is bonded to an atom of another element. Normally this is happening in covalent bonds. හරිද? covalent bond එකනේ අපිට electrons දෙකක් තියෙන්නේ. හරිද? මෙන්න මේ electron දෙකෙන් මෙයාව අපි හිතමු මෙතන xy කියලා තියෙනවා කියලා. මෙයාව ඇද ගන්න තියෙන හැකියාවට අපි කියනවා electronegativity කියලා. එහෙනම් බොන්ඩ් එකේ තියෙන ඉලෙක්ට්‍රෝන ගැනයි මේ කතා කරන්නේ. නැතුව වෙන කොහොමවත් තියෙන ඇටම් එකක තියෙන ඉලෙක්ට්‍රෝන අද ගන්න නෙමෙයි. When they form a bond and form a molecule or a compound, the affinity or the ability of an atom of an element to attract the electrons of a bond towards itself when it is bonded of another element. That must you have to write here. What is meant by electronegativity is the ability to attract the electrons in a bond when atoms are bonded covalently, right? Complete the bar chart by using the data given in the table. That is what I did earlier, right? So you have to complete this one. Then ask, draw the line to connect the peak points. So now you have to connect the peak. කිසි ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ මේ peak points ටික ගත්තාම ඇඳගෙන යනවා. right? ඔහොම ඇඳගෙන යන්න තියෙන peak points, right? ඇයි දැන් එහෙම දෙන්නේ කියලා බලන්න. Electronegativity value of helium, neon and argon are not given in the table. What is the reason for it? ඔන්න දැන් ඔයගලන්ට ඉගෙන ගන්න හොඳ දෙයක්. What is the reason for not having values for helium, neon and argon? So it is in the table itself given as 0, right? So why? Because they do not form any bonds. So no value, no ability to attract them. They do not have any ability to attract because they do not involve in forming bonding. Right? That is what you have to write. They do not form bonds with other elements. Covalent bonds are not formed. Right? Explain briefly the behavior of electronegativity in the following structure. When going down the groups, what happens? When going down the groups, electronegativity එක මොකද වෙලා තියෙන්නේ? Going down the groups කිව්වා නම් ඔයා එකට ගන්න ඕනේ. ලිතියම් මෙතන තියෙන්නේ sodium. ලිතියම් වලට වඩා sodium අඩුයි. If you take the second group, beryllium වලට වඩා අඩුයි magnesium. So you can take, when going down the group, electronegativity reduces. ඔය point ටික විතරයි පුතේ ඔය පාඩමේ පාඩම් කරන්න තියෙන්නේ. You must learn the definition and you think about what happens to the electronegativity when it goes down the groups and what happens to along the period. When go along left to right the period, ඒ කියන්නේ අපි ලිතියම් වලින් පටන් ගත්තා නම් ෆ්ලෝරින් වෙනකොට මොකද්ද වෙලා තියෙන්නේ? සෝඩියම් වලින් පටන් අරගෙන ආගන් වෙනකොට මොකද වෙන්නේ කියලා බලන්න ඕනේ. ඒකට පේනවා ඔයාලට මේක ඒක තමයි මේකෙන් හොඳටම පෙන්වන්නේ. When we go along the period you can see till the seventh group it increases. හරිද? You have to write till the seventh group the electronegativity increases, or else you can write from left to right till the seventh group electronegativity is increasing, right? So that is what you have to write here. Hope up to that point it's clear. දැන් බලන්න. ඔන්න මේ වගේ type මම මෙතන different types of questions are selected here, right? Now here given you some information, right? So once you read this kind of thing, you must be tactful to elaborate them in a clear manner when you are answering the question paper, right? A, B, C, D, and E are 5 different elements, right? So then you have to oh yeah, but මම කොහෙද ලියුවේ? අනිත් තියෙන්නේ. So you write A, B, C, D, E කියලා ලියා ගන්න. ලියාගෙන දැන් ඒ එක එකක් යටට you have to put the data given in lengthy sentences in a very short manner like this. So then it's easy for you to rather reading again and again the question. So once you read the question, you just pick the important points and put it into a table like this way, right? So you put A, B, C, D, and E. Okay. Now, then A. First information given as discovery 1. What is discovered? When exposed to air, A lost its shine on the surface first. Now remember what you have done in the school itself. You have observed, you did some experiments referring some metals, right? Which one is lost its shine when it exposed to air quickly? Which one? දැන් අපිට හිතනවා මේ A මොකද්ද මෙහෙම වුනේ? මතකද සෝඩියම් කෑල්ලක් අරගෙන කපපුවාම අපි මේවා මුණොත් හිතන්නේ අපි ලියනවා A lost its shine. මෙහෙම ලියාගත්තා, right? Then it says discovery A reacts with cold water faster than C producing bubbles of gas. එහෙනම් A is more reactive than C කියලාත් මම මෙතන ලියාගත්තා. හරි? දැන් අපිට ඔය දෙක clue එකක් දුන්නා මොකටද? A කියන එක්කිනා කවුද කියලා හොයාගන්න. Right? Lost its shine very quickly and react in cold water than C. හරි? පොඩි මේකක් තියෙනවා අපිට. මෙයා මොනවාද? හැබැයි අපි දන්නවා දැන් චුටි දෙයක්. හරි? Then goes to the discovery C. C is a colorless gas in room temperature. It is one of the essential elements given as macronutrient. One of the macronutrient for the existence of life on earth, used to make fertilizer. That is the clue. Which one is a macronutrient and used to make fertilizer? චුට්ටක් ඔලුවට ආවා. හැබැයි අපි ඒක ලියා ගන්නවා නිකම් මෙහෙම. C එකට. Colorless gas. ඒක gas එකක් වෙන්නත් ඕනේ. Used to make fertilizer. ඔන්න තියාගන්න. හරි. දැන් මේ ටික ඔයාලා තාම ලියලා නැහැ. මේ මම දැන් ලියාපුවා ටික. හරිද? ඒක ලියන්නේ නැහැ පස්සේ ලියන්නේ. දැන් මෙතෙන්ට එනකන් ලියලා තියෙනවා. හරි? D. Discovery 4. B is a strong metal essential to produce chlorophyll molecules in plants when burning give an intense flame. ඔන්න ඔයාලට මෙයාව දෙනවා identify කරගන්න clue එකක්. Which metal gives intense flame when burn in air, right? ඔළුවට ආව දැන් මොකක් හරි කමන්නේ අපි එකත් ලියනවා. Burning gives intense flame and it is another clue is given as it is a strong metal. Sponge එකක් නෙමෙයි. butter කෑල්ලක් වගේ කැපෙන්නේ නැහැ. It is essential to produce. It is essential to produce chlorophyll molecules. ඒක අපිට අමතකයි කියන්නකෝ. chlorophyll molecule එක හැදෙන්න ඕන කෙනයි කියලා මතක නැහැ. හැබැයි අපිට තියෙනවා clues දෙකක්. A strong metal when burning gives an intense flame. හරි? D is a solid in room temperature. Oxide of the element in one way is essential for the existence of life on Earth. ඔක්සයිඩ් එක ඕන වෙනවලු. හරිද? ඒ කියන්නේ මේ D එක කියන එකේනා ඔක්සිජන් එක එකතු වෙලා හදන ඔක්සයිඩ් එක is an essential for the existence of life on Earth. In other way, when exceeds the limits, cause death of human being, not actually human being for all. The element has many forms, and one form makes the world's hardest substance. What is the world's hardest substance? When you see this word, you must remember that is diamond. එහෙනම් diamond එක form එකක් වෙන මේ substance එක මොකක්ද? Solid in room temperature කිව්වා oxides of the element. එහෙනම් මොකක්ද oxide එක? Carbon dioxide වෙන්න පුළුවන් නේද? අපි එහෙනම් ඔන්න D identify කරගත්තා as carbon. හරි? එතකොට discovery 6. E is a black solid in room temperature and mainly used to make skin creams. මෙතන black solid එක වෙන මොකුත් නෙමෙයි. මොකද්ද boron කියලා මතක තියෙන්න ඕනේ. Right? Now you can find. So A is you can identify as sodium. B is magnesium. C is nitrogen because it says that it's a macro element, macronutrient, and used to form fertilizer, and also it's a gas. So nitrogen. C is nitrogen. And D is carbon, B is boron, E is boron, right? Now, what are the metals out of them? The first question is, you have to categorize them as metals and non-metals. So if you do not recognize them correctly, you cannot answer the question correctly. So metals are A and B. Okay. Non-metals are C, T, and E. So that is the answer. For that, you need to identify them correctly. Harry? The second question. Now you identify A to E and give the real symbols with their atomic numbers. Now, once you have identified, it's easy for you to write the correct symbols and the atomic numbers. A sodium, atomic number is 11. B magnesium, atomic number 12. C nitrogen, atomic number is 7. D is carbon, atomic number is 6. E is boron, atomic number 5. Children, I would like to give an advice. Please remember the atomic numbers with the elements of the first 20 elements in the periodic table. Don't think that they will be given, right? It's easy for you to save your time and gain more marks if you know them thoroughly. හරිද? පුතාලා ඒක හොඳට පාඩම් කරගන්න. ඒවා දන්නවනම් අපිට හරි ලේසි මේවා උත්තර ලියන්න, right? Then the next question. What is the next question here? Name 2 common fertilizers produced by using C. Now, for the moment, we know C is nitrogen. So, it is a common sense. All of us are living in agricultural-based economy, and all of you grow plants, I hope. So, what are the common fertilizers containing nitrogen? 2 are urea and ammonium sulfate. Right? Those are the 2 common fertilizers produced by using C means not carbon, it is nitrogen. Give one use of element A. Element A is sodium. So you have to write the uses of sodium metal, right? There are plenty of given in your textbook. So you can write 2 of them. Production of sodium cyanide used in extraction of gold and silver. Making sodium amalgam in dentistry. එතකොට extraction of sodium amalgam used, which is used as a reducing agent in organic chemistry, extraction of metals such as titanium and zirconium, production of indigo dye used to dye denims, and also sodium is used to glow the street lamps, which is in yellow color. Okay, ලේසි දෙකක් හැම එකීම පුතේ ලේසි දෙකක් මතක තියාගන්න. right? ඔයවා සාමාන්‍යයෙන් අහන ප්‍රශ්නයක් නේ ඔය මෙටල් එකක් non metal එකක් දුන්නොත් ඒකේ use එකක් දෙකක් ලේසියෙන් මතක තියාගන්න පුළුවන් එකක් දෙකක් මතක තියාගන්න. Write the balance equation to show the reaction of B with HCl. Use the given symbol. That means you have to use the given symbol means B. You have to use B. What is B actually? But for the sake of us, you must remember that B is B. What is B? B is magnesium. ඒක මතක තියෙන්න ඕනේ. හැබැයි මතක තියාගෙන මෙතන දාන්නේ මොකද්ද? මතක තියාගෙන දාන්නේ B කියලා විතරයි. හරි? Here I wrote it. B plus මෙතන මම ඔයාලට ඒක රිමයින්ඩ් කරන්නයි magnesium කියලා දැම්මේ. නමුත් මේක ලියන්නේ නැහැ. මේක ලිව්වොත් ඔයගොල්ලන්ට ලකුණු දෙන්නේ නැහැ. නම් B plus HCl BCl2 2H2. Once you balance it, these two you have tried. ඉන්න මම ලියන්න අපෝසරයක් B plus HCl කොහොමද ලියන්නේ? BCl දැන් දන්නවා B magnesium කියලා දන්නවා. හරිද? ඒ හින්දා අපි මෙයාගේ valence එක 2යි කියලා දන්නවා. දන්න නිසා BCl2 මෙතනට දානවා. plus H2. හරි? එතකොට මෙයාව බැලන්ස් කරන්න ඕනේ. මේ පැත්තේ H දෙකක් තියෙනවා, මේ පැත්තේ එක H එකයි. මෙතන ක්ලෝරින් දෙකක් තියෙනවා, මෙතන එකයි. එහෙනම් ලේසිම දේ මෙතෙන්ට අපි දෙකක් දාපුවාම you can balance all the atoms in both sides. So B2HCl BCl2 plus දැන් මෙතන මොකද වෙන්නේ? මෙතන H දෙකයි. එතකොට yes මෙතනට දෙක දාන්නේ නැහැ. H2. මෙතන මම වරද්දලා. H2 ඔහොමම දාන්න. right? B plus 2HCl, BCl2 and H2. This is the balanced equation. Right? Then, what is the next question? Write what is the type of reaction in 5? What is the type of reaction in 5? මොකක්ද මෙතන තියෙන reaction එක? ඔයාලා ඉගෙන ගත්ත 4 difference නේද? Synthesis, decomposition, simple displacement, single displacement and double displacement. එතකොට මොකක්ද මෙතන තියෙන මේක type එක? B කියන element එක, B කියන metal එක මෙතනින් hydrogen ව displace කරලා chlorine එකට බැඳිලා. එහෙනම් මෙතන answer එක වෙන්න ඕනේ single displacement reaction. හරිද? Single displacement reaction. Type of reaction is single displacement of reaction. Single displacement reaction. So then, how do you identify the gas produced in the fifth question? Fifth question, what is the gas produced here? Hydrogen. හරිද? ඔන්න ළමයි තව වැරද්දන තැනක් තමයි. When you identify, only 3 gases we have to identify for your syllabus. What are those 3? Hydrogen, oxygen, and carbon dioxide, right? Carbon dioxide, actually from your grade 6 onwards, you know that you have to use colorless calcium hydroxide and you have to glow, or you have to let the gas go into, let it into mix with calcium hydroxide. Then it turns to milky color. So that is the significant identification of carbon dioxide. In the case of hydrogen and oxygen, you have to take a splint. ඔන්න ඔතන වරද්දන තැනක් තියෙනවා. Splint එක දෙකක් තියෙනවා. මොකද්ද glowing splint and the lighted splint. Glowing splint කියන්නේ පුතේ හඳුන් කූරක් පත්තු කරනකොට තියෙන රතු පාටට red hot type එකේ අර කෑල්ල අන්න එහෙම තියෙන එකකට අපි කියනවා glowing splint කියලා. Lighted splint කියන්නේ with the flame, right? So here, when you use hydrogen, if you want to identify hydrogen, what you have to insert to the collected gas jar, you have to insert a lighted splint. හරිද? දැල්ලත් එක්ක දාන්නේ. එතකොට මොකද වෙන්නේ? The flame extinguishes by giving characteristic pop sound. හරිද? ඒක ලියන්න පුළුවන් මෙහෙම. You will be able to observe the distinguishing the flame of the lighted splinter giving out pop sound. දැල්ල නිවෙනවා pop sound එකක් දෙනවා. හරි? Or else straight away if you couldn't remember the whole thing correctly, at least you have to remember the pop sound. Giving out pop sound is a characteristic feature of hydrogen identification. හැබැයි නිකම්ම pop sound දුන්නා කිව්වොත් මොකටද pop sound දුන්නේ කියලා ප්‍රශ්නයක් එනවනේ. That is not a complete answer. So remember, you have to write when inserting a lighted splinter to the gas sample, the flame extinguishes. නිවෙනවා කියන එකට වචනේ extinguishes by giving out pop sound. That is the correct way of answering for that question, right? If you use a glowing splint to the oxygen jar, what will happen? It is reignite, right? So then giving a flame, you will be able to see the flame clearly if it is oxygen. But here you must know metals react with HCl, forms hydrogen gas mainly, right? So that is it. Now we'll move to the next part. If you want to produce 5 moles of gas, that means hydrogen. Hari? You mentioned what is the mass of B that you have to use for the activity. And then ඉස්සෙල්ලත් මම ඔයාලට කිව්වනේ, if you have the balance equation, no need to bother. හැබැයි මෙතන අහන්නේ moles ගන්න අපිට එකෙන් හොයාගත්ත හැකි. හැබැයි ඔයාලා mass එක calculate කරන්න ඕනේ, right? So for that you must need to know the number of moles needed to produce 5 moles of hydrogen, right? So once you balance it, once you balance it, you can understand 1 mole of B is equal should needed to produce 1 mole of hydrogen. හරිද? 1 mole of metal is, or the B is needed to produce 1 mole of hydrogen. එහෙනම් 5 moles හදන්න B එකනොත් ඕනේ 5 moles, right? හරි නේද? එතන වරද්දලා. හරි. අපි ගන්න ඕනේ 1 mole of B is needed to produce 1 mole of hydrogen. මේක වරද්දලා තියෙන්නේ, මේක බලන්න එපා. හරි? එහෙනම් to get 5 moles of hydrogen, you need to get 5 moles of B. Now, B, you know that is magnesium. ඒක හොයාගෙන තිබුණ නැත්නම් ඔළුවේ නැත්නම් මේක එහාට යන්න බෑ. එතකොට what is the mass needed? Number of moles you know, mass you don't know. Molecular mass you must know, right? Relative atomic mass in grams is the molar mass of B. එතකොට මෙතන 5 දැම්මා. 5 වැඩි කිරීම 12 මේකත් වැරදි. So 60 grams of B is needed to produce 5 moles of hydrogen. හරිද? I made a mistake here. That's why I'm cutting off. Don't look at them. Balance කරනකොට අතන පොඩ්ඩක් වරද්දලා මම. Right? This one. 60 grams of B is needed to produce 5 moles of hydrogen. That is the answer. Right? Let's up to that point. Now we have covered the second question also. Second essay type question. Madam, only 6 more minutes there. Shall I go discuss the third last question?
Yes, Lakshmi, so you can do it.
Right. So without making any delay, we'll move to the third question. ඒක ලස්සන ප්‍රශ්නයක් පුතේ. ගොඩක් concepts එකේ තියෙනවා ඔයාලට තේරුම් ගන්න. What is the third question here? It is related to friction and all, right? A and B are two identical cubes of wood weighing 5 kg each. That means A is also 5 kilogram weight, B is also 5 kilogram. But it is the two figures are there showing that in one situation A is kept on the B, and in the second situation both are kept on the table horizontally, right, as a block. මේකට කියනවා අපි compound object කියලා. මෙහෙම වෙලාවකදී අපි පාවිච්චි කරන වචනේ තමයි compound object. Compound object කියන්නේ මේ දෙකම දැන් එක object එකක් හැටියට තමයි ක්‍රියාත්මක වෙන්නේ. හරි? So, as shown in the first figure, 5 Newton force was applied horizontally by a spring balance. මෙතනදී මේ පේනවානේ මේක horizontally මේ පැත්තට අදිනවා. හරි? Drawn towards them, towards right side, right? 2 wooden cubes which was placed on one on top of the other. At that moment means at that situation, 2 cubes of wood remained stationary. හෙල්ලෙන්නේ නැහැ. එහෙනම් එයා හැමම තියෙනවා. At that point, draw a diagram to show the force acting on 2 cubes of wood. Composite object. හරිද? මෙතන වචනේ දීලා තියෙනවා composite or compound object, no matter. Mark the value of the frictional force also. එතන කියනවා value එක දෙන්න කියලා. හරිද? දැන් මෙතන important points දෙකක් තියෙනවා. The wood remain stationary. හරිද? And indirectly saying that there must be a frictional force. ඔයාලට මතක නැත්නම් ඔන්න ඒ clue එකකුත් දීලා තියෙනවා. එහෙනම් ඔයාලා මේකේ include කරන්න ඕනේ ඔය ටික. So how can you draw it? Right here. Now, you know that if it is stationary, remember, if it is stationary without harming there, so you know always weight acted downward and there must be an equal reaction opposite to it. So you have to mark R as this way. And friction is there. So it says that this balance move drawn towards right side. So then the friction must be to the opposite side. එහෙනම් friction එක මේ විදිහට F කියලා දාන්න ඕනේ. මේ නිල් පාට ඊතලේ නෙමෙයි මේ කළු පාට දාපු ඊතලේ දාන්න. Always friction must be along the මෙහෙම surface එකෙන් එන්නේ. එතකොට මේ මෙහෙම දැන්. So this is the force given by the spring balance. So then you have to find the value for the friction. What is the value for the friction? Actually, it's said that it is in stationary. Stationary කියන්නේ දැන් එයා යන්නේ නැහැ. යන්නේ නැතිකොට යන්නේ නැති වෙලාවේදී නම් frictional force එක දෙන්නේ කොහමද? Newton balance එකේ පෙන්නන reading එක තමයි අපිට frictional force එකේ value එක වෙන්නේ. Because it is static friction, right? එහෙනම් at this moment the object is still, so that we can say frictional force is equals to the Newton balance reading, that is 5 Newton. You have to mention here it as 5 Newton. ඉතින් කම්මැලි වෙන්න එපා. පොඩ්ඩක් ඔක ලියලා කොහොමද ලියන්නේ? එතකොට ඔයගොල්ලෝ හොඳට දන්නවා කියන එක බලන කෙනාට පේනවා. Right? The next question. The two cubes or the composite object only began to move when 10 Newton horizontal forces applied by the spring balance. It can just begin to move. හරි එහෙනම් දැන් ඔන්න 10 නිව්ටන් එනකම්ම එයා නැවතිලා ඉන්නේ. 10 නිව්ටන් දෙනකොටම එයා පටන් ගන්නවා. Only began. හරි. What is the name given to the frictional force exerted on the object at that time? So you know there are three types of frictional forces you learn: static, limiting, and dynamic. හරිද? එහෙනම් ඔයාලා graph එකක් ඉස්කෝලේදී අඳිනවා. This is up to this point static frictional force එක. චූට්ටක් ඔන්න ඒ friction එකට වඩා චුට්ටක් දුන්න ගමන් පටන් ගන්නවා. එයා about to move. ඒකට අපි කියනවා limiting. ඊට පස්සේ ආපහු මේකට වඩා මෙන්න මෙහෙම පොඩක් ඊට වඩා අඩුවෙන් යනවා dynamic. Dynamic එක කෙලින් යන්නේ ඊට පස්සේ object එකේ අර imbalance force එක වැඩි වෙන්න එයා වේගෙන් යනවා. හැබැයි dynamic එක වැඩි වෙන්නේ නැහැ. මොකද dynamic එක දෙන්නේ surface එකෙන්. එතනින් එහාට dynamic එක කෙනාට වැඩි කරගන්න බෑ. හරි? So then keeping in all these things in your mind, so what is the name given to the frictional force exerted on the object at this time? That means the force given to force that is needed to make the object move, just begin to move, right? So that is 10 Newton, and name is limiting frictional force. අපි ඒක exceed කරන්න දෙන්න ඕනේ. limiting frictional force එක ආවට පස්සේ අපිට ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. dynamic friction එක තියෙද්දි තමයි කොහොමත් වාහනයක් හරි යන්නේ. හරිද? එහෙනම් what is the value? 10 Newton, right? Is the frictional force between the two objects on the table less than or more than or equal to Is the frictional force between the two objects and the table less than, more than, or equal the frictional force that of 2? That of 2 means about the limiting frictional force. Yeah, that of 2 when the objects were drawn by the spring balance with the uniform velocity. The uniform velocity එකේ මෙයා යනවා කියන්නේ මොකකින්ද? එයා යනකොට මොකද වෙන්නේ? එහෙනම් දැන් ඒ වෙලේදී ආකාර තියෙන්නේ මොකද්ද? ඒ වෙලේදී ආකාර තියෙන්නේ dynamic friction එක නේද? When the object is moving, you have to remember frictional force acted on it from the surface is known as dynamic frictional force, right? So here you must remember that dynamic frictional force is less than the limiting frictional force. I have shown it by using this graph also. So limiting is the maximum frictional force, and once it comes to the uniform velocity, motion in uniform velocity, the dynamic frictional force acted on it, so it is less than the limiting frictional force, right? So you have to write it is smaller than the limiting frictional force. So what is the next question? Fourth one, if the force exerted by the spring balance is increased and the speed of the two blocks is increased. අපි මොකද කරන්නේ? Force exerted spring balance again then බලය වැඩි කර if the force exerted by the spring balance is increased and the speed of the two blocks is increased, is the frictional force between the table and the composite greater than or lower than or similar to that of the frictional force obtained at 3? හරිද? අපි ඉස්සෙල්ලා කතා කරානේ යුනිෆෝම් වෙලොසිටි එකකින් යනකොට මොකද වෙන්නේ? අරකට වඩා පොඩ්ඩක් අඩුවෙන් යන්නේ. හැබැයි දැන් කියනවා අපි දැන් දෙන ෆෝස් එක වැඩි කර මෙයාගේ ස්පීඩ් එක වැඩි කරනවා. අන්න ඒ වෙලාවට මෙයාගේ මොකද වෙන්නේ කියලා අහනවා. So what is the principle here? which you have to, the principle which you have to remember is the dynamic frictional force is not depend on the velocity of the object. You have to remember that, right? It is not depend on the velocity of the object. So that in this situation, you get the same value as the earlier one. So it has nothing changed, right? So the dynamic frictional force is not changing with the changing velocity of the object, right? So then we'll move to the next question. Fifth one. As shown in the figure 2, when a horizontal force is applied by a spring balance attached to the two wooden blocks, what is the reading shown in the spring balance when the object begins to move? දැන් ඔන්න අහනවා තියෙන විදිය වෙනස් කරාට ප්‍රශ්නයක් වෙනවද කියලා ඔයාලා කල්පනා කරන්න. So තියෙන විදිය විතරයි වෙනස් කරන්නේ අපිනේ. What actually happens? So මගේ උත්තර ටික. So fifth one actually. In this situation, two blocks kept on the surface of the table and increases the contact area. මෙතන contact area වැඩි. හැබැයි මතක තියාගන්න ඕනේ දේ තමයි පුතේ frictional force not depend on the contact area. It depends on the nature of the surface. So it doesn't matter whatever it is, but you must remember both the blocks having same W, the composite one having the same 10 Newton downward. හරිද? එතකොට මේ දෙකටම ආව මොකක් හරි frictional dynamic friction එක අපි හොයාගත්තනේ. Dynamic friction එක 10 Newton කියලා මේ පැත්තට තියෙනවා. ඒක උඩට තිබ්බත් යටට තිබ්බත් කිසි ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. Right? So weight of the composite object is the 5 kilograms. 5 kg, 5 kg, 10 kg, that means 100 Newton, right? And limiting frictional force is similar to the previous 10 Newton, right? So the value of the dynamic frictional force is 10 Newton for both the situation. You have to keep this principle, remember. Whatever the way it is kept on the surface, even though the surface area is increased, no matter, contact area does not affect on the frictional force. Frictional force totally depend on the perpendicular reaction plus the nature of the surface. So that you can say the limiting frictional force is similar in both the situation. Right? Now we'll move to the last part of the question. That is B. මේක කතා කරන්න හම්බුනොත් ඉවරයි අපි part B. In a mechanical engineer's experiment with the motor vehicle found that when all the seats in moving vehicle are full, the distance traveled when the brakes were applied is greater than when only the driver was there, right? Now think two situations. In one situation, the only driver is inside the vehicle and applied brakes. So you know, once you applied brake on a vehicle, it moves certain distance and then stops. Here they found out when the driver is there and applied a force when applied brake, it moves a distance x කියලා distance එකක් යනවා. When all the seats are full, that means with the passengers plus the driver, when he applied brakes, මොකද වෙන්නේ? The distance traveled is greater than that of a lone driver. Sometimes make x නම් මෙයා 5x හරි 10x හරි we don't know. Greater length එකක් යනවා කියන එකයි ඒ එන length එක y කියනවා නම් that is greater than that of x. එච්චරයි අපිට මේක දීලා තියෙන්නේ. හරිද? තනි පැසෙන්ජර් කෙනෙක් ඉන්නකොට ඇප්ලයිඩ් කරනකොට වාහනේ බ්‍රේක් එක එයා යන නැවතෙන්න යන දුරට වඩා වැඩිලු passengers ඔක්කොම තියාගෙන ඉන්නවා නම් වාහනේ. ඒකයි simply කියන්නේ. So now the first question, in addition to the conditions of the road in this test, specify another factor that must be kept constant. Now remember, you are doing a scientific experiment, right? So you must know that all the other factors must be kept constant in order to observe any effect of an experiment. That thing you have to have in your mind, right? ඒ කියන්නේ අපි scientific experiment එකක් කරනකොට බලන්න යන factor එක ඇරෙන්න අනික් සියලුම factors නියතව තියාගන්න ඕනේ. That is what I said. All the other factors must be kept constant in order to observe any effect of an experiment. Therefore, it should be clear that the speed of the vehicle should be same in the both situations. Speed must be, or the velocity must be should be constant. The other thing, you must, yes, that is the thing, right? In the both the cases, right? The both the situations, that means with the passenger and without the passengers, the vehicle must move in the same speed. In other words, right? That is the thing. Speed of the vehicle in the both the situations must be same. Right? The second one, when all the seats in the car are full, when the brakes are applied, explain why it is moving far for stillness. හරිද? එතකොට මොකද වෙන්නේ? කල්පනා කරන්න මොකද්ද මෙතන වෙන්නේ? If you know that F means the force, right? M is the mass. A is the acceleration, right? You know F is equal to ma by applying the second law of motion, Newton's second law of motion. You know that A is directly proportional to, if you take A into front, so F divided by M, right? So A is increases when increased in force, and that means directly proportional to F and indirectly proportional to M, right? So since the same braking force is applied at all time, ඒ කියන්නේ දෙපාරම යා බ්‍රේක් එක තද කරන්නේ එකම ප්‍රමාණයකින් නම්, right? So then F is constant, right? So then what is happening here? In one situation, only the car containing only the driver. The other situation, car containing passengers. M is different. Here M1 and M2 situations are there. හරිද? එහෙනම් මොකද වෙන්නේ? ඔයාලා දන්නවා, higher the mass, lower the acceleration. Higher the mass, lower the acceleration. Therefore, what will happen? When all the seats in the car are full, it has more mass than when the driver is alone. හරිද? When the driver is alone, the mass is less than the mass when the car is full. හරිද? So then, you know, higher the mass, what will happen? Having lesser acceleration. So then it travels further before it comes to stand still. ඈතට ගිහින් තමයි නවතින්නේ. හරිද? What එතනදී නම් ලියන්න ඕන එක තමයි හේතුව. mass එක වැඩි වෙනවා, acceleration එක අඩු වෙනවා. acceleration එක අඩු වෙනකොට මෙයා apply කරන force එක constant. එතකොට එයා නිශ්චල වෙන්නේ, කියන්නේ come to still, it must go bit further than the other situation, right? So then Next one. When the brakes are applied in the above manner on a rainy day, the distance traveled before coming to rest is longer than on a dry day. Explain this. So what is actually happening in a rainy day? You know that the road gets wet on a rainy day. So you know from your experience that the frictional force against the moving direction of the vehicle is less than on a dry day. When there is another layer on the surface, what will happen? The frictional force is less. So always frictional force, when the brakes are applied to the vehicle, you know that what will happen to the rotation of the wheels, they stops and the vehicle become immobile. That means not mobile due to the frictional force acting on the opposite direction. So what will happen? It moves bit further. පිටිපස්සට තියෙන frictional force එක අඩු වෙනකොට එයා වැඩිපුර ඈතට යනවා. හරි. ඒක තමයි එතන වෙන්නේ. So then the fourth one. The mass of above car is 900 kilogram and it travels at a uniform velocity of 20 meters per second. It sees an accident in front of the driver and applies the brakes at once and then comes to rest within 4 seconds. What is the deceleration of the car when applies brake? How do you find that? You have to write the deceleration of the vehicle is equals to final velocity minus initial velocity divided by time. Final velocity means stopping. It comes to rest. That means 0. Initial velocity, it starts 20 meters per second. It gives neither. Then applied brake at, because it is moving from uniform velocity, suddenly applied brake. So that means the final initial velocity is 20. So time taken to stop it 4 seconds. So then answer is 5 meters per square second. එතකොට ඔන්න you found the A, right? So what is asking? What is the deceleration of the car when applies brake? That is the answer. Find the force exerted on the vehicle by the brakes. For that you have to use the equation. If the force applied by brakes is F, it is equals to MA. So mass is given as 900 kilograms and A we found out as 5. Now it is 4,500 Newton. This is the force applied by brakes. Finish. We have discussed the full paper, dear children. One of the students raised their hand. I'm really sorry I didn't see because I'm using a tab. So once I sharing the screen, I can't see anything happening in the main screen. So what is it? Madam, what shall we? They are asking whether we can give the answer sheet, which I have used here. But I try my level best to type it in and send you. Is it okay, madam? If I write?
It's better, no, Lakshmi?
Because sometimes
The
I
answers.
just, writing on the paper. So I will try as much as possible to give it to you. So, madam, now there are 127 students. Shall I stop the session?
Yeah. Now, dear teachers and my dear students, I take this opportunity to thank Mrs. Lakshmi Nettkumara, who conducted today's seminar. And as well as I would like to thank all the teachers who participated to this seminar with their students and who delivered this message to their students. And dear students, I also would like to thank you for participating in this seminar and wish you all the best. And finally, I would like to say this is the first seminar that we conducted for English medium students. And also there are another 2 seminars. So I think that you will be participate that also. Thank you. Thank you, Lakshmi, again. And then we will end for today. Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you very much, madam. Thank you for participating, dear children. Hope you will gain something, and I expect here this will help you to get some kind of to refresh your knowledge about subject. God bless you.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, coordinator, madam.
Thank you.